The Honourable, the Speaker.
Almighty God, we give thanks to you, the creator of the universe, and humbly beseech you to direct and prosper the deliberations of the members of this house here assembled, for the advancement of your glory and the trust and welfare of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Grant that peace and happiness, truth and justice may be established among us for all generations. Amen, Amen, Namaste.
Oath to affirmation, announcements by the Speaker, bills brought from the Senate, petitions, papers.
Minister of Finance.
Papers. Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay the following papers. 1 to 2. The audited financial statements of Telecommunications Services of Trinidad and Tobago Limited for the financial years March 31, 2017 and 2018. 3. The administrative report of the Trinidad and Tobago International Financial Center Management Company Limited for the period July 1st, 2016 to June 30th, 2017. I beg to move that papers 1 and 2 be referred to the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee.
Honourable members, the question is that papers 1 and 2 be referred to the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee. All in favour say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it. Minister of National Security.
Madam Speaker, I have the honour to lay the annual report of the Criminal Injuries Compensation Board for the period 1st of October 2015 to the 30th of September 2016.
Leader of the House.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay paper number 5, the ministerial response of the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries to the 20th report of the Public Accounts Committee on the examination of the report of the Auditor General on the public accounts of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago for the financial year 2017.
Reports from committees.
Member for Lupino Bonnier West.
Madam Speaker, on behalf of the member for Lupino Bonnier West, may I do it, or would you want another committee member to do it, ma'am?
Committee.
Yes.
Ropuch West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have the honor to present the 6th report of the Joint Select Committee on Finance and Legal Affairs on an inquiry into the implementation of the new public procurement system.
Member for Diego Martin, Northeast.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have the honor to present the report of the Joint Select Committee appointed to consider and report on the Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority Bill 2018.
Prime Minister's questions, urgent questions.
Member for Chaguanas West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the Honourable Minister of Public Utilities, could the Minister provide the rationale for the recent seizure of water pumps from Marangwes farmers by officials of the Water and Sewerage Authority?
Utilities.
Madam Speaker, we all aware in this House of videos circulating on social media which showed in graphic detail an irrigation system in the Aranguez area using polluted water for drains and the watering of food crops in this particular area. The resultant water pollution poses a great risk, as you will aware, to the ecosystem, human life, the environment. This video has been of great concern to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and was brought to my attention and to the attention of all, and has been gotten the sight by the Minister of Health, the Minister of Agriculture, with great concern. Arising out of this video and also arising out of the restrictions that we have been placing nationally on monitoring people abusing the water systems and so forth coming out of the dry season, WASA has been increasing their patrols throughout the area, throughout the areas of Trinidad and Tobago. As a result of that control and that monitoring, WASA, under WASA's Act Section 54.4, 3 pumps were seized from persons in the Aranguez area, and these individuals have been placed on notice of possible charges. This, as I said before, Madam Speaker, because of our own vigilance going through. As you well aware, WASA has the responsibility as the only authority with the responsibility of abstracting water, and therefore any individual who is engaged in such an activity must get a required license. This matter is also before the courts. We understand that pre-action protocol letters have been served, and as I had indicated, it is WASA's intention to prosecute, and therefore you will understand that my ability to go into any more greater detail will not be very possible.
Madam Speaker, arising out of a video in social media, that is the basis for this action. Before to believe, therefore, I want to ask the Honourable Minister, through you, Madam Speaker, whether any notification, whether any warning, whether any kind of shot across the bow, so to speak, were made to these farmers prior to the seizure of their property.
Minister of Public Utilities.
Madam Speaker, I was very clear in saying that, one, yes, it has come to not only my attention, but the public's attention about the seriousness of what was posed. WASA, in exercising their job, in being vigilant and in protecting the well-being of the citizens of this country throughout Trinidad and Tobago. In exercising their job, we have always accused WASA of not doing their job. In this case, the police was doing their job. And in the exercise of their duties, and in light of the laws that they have, they found certain matters. They found pumps that were actually extracting, that was against the law from their interpretation of the law. And they have made certain charges. The police of WASA are simply doing their job, of which I have to congratulate them for doing.
Supplemental member for Shogunas West.
Kind to indicate, Honourable Minister, that it is their interpretation of the law. So the matter is not yet in the court. So having said that, it is clear that the law, the Waterworks and Water Conservation, Section 54.4 that you talk about, that gives that you indicate gives the WASA that power, requires procedural fairness. Requires
you have 15
procedural
seconds to ask a question. Could you ask the question, please?
Yeah. Are you aware, prior to whether you are aware that the law requires procedural fairness on the part of the Water and Sewerage Authority officers?
Minister of Public Utilities.
Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I would expect the people, the individuals and the police I have very much confidence in the police at Wassa, in knowing the law and in knowing the procedures that are required to exercise charges against someone. And therefore, they have done, and I am sure in light of what the potential hazard that was before them, they took action in an attempt to, one, protect and ensure that the law was being followed, and also to protect the potential danger that what it is that could have been posed by the consumers, to the consumers.
Member, you're only allowed 2 supplemental questions. These are urgent questions. Member for Oropuch West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the Minister of Finance, in light of recent reports which indicated that BPTT will be unable to supply Atlantic LNG Train 1 with the appropriate amount of gas during the period 2020 to 2021, owing to several exploration challenges, could the Minister inform the House how will this development impact on Trinidad and Tobago's economic recovery?
Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, the member cannot possibly or seriously expect me to answer that question prior to the delivery of the mid-year review.
Supplemental, Member for Naparima.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister, were you aware when you spoke last week in glowing terms about the economy, were you aware of this information by BPTT regarding supplies to Train 1? And if you were not aware...
Member, 1 question, please. Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will not take the bait. I will answer this matter in the mid-year review.
Member for...
Of course.
The member has answered the question. It may not be the way we want, but he's answered. Member for Naparima, you have a supplemental, right?
Minister, if you were not aware, if you were aware, did you set out to misadvise the population?
Member for Caroni East, I've recognized the member for Naparima, Attorney General and Minister of Finance. I'm on my legs. Member for Naparima, your supplemental question.
Minister, if you were aware of the information from BPTT, did you set out to deceive or misadvise the population?
I will allow misadvise and not deceive. Misadvise.
Madam Speaker, I will not be baited by the member for Naparima. I will address this matter in my speech.
Madam Speaker, based on that question, I would like to invoke... I would... What?
Member for Roodal Moonilal.
I am invoking Standing Order 48-6.
And Member for Roodal Moonilal, I think the question asked was misadvised. I will not uphold your objection.
Questions on notice, questions for oral answer.
Leader of the House.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there are 6 questions for oral answer, and we'll be answering all 6.
Member for Shogunas East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Question number 180 to the Minister of Labour and Small Enterprise Development.
Minister of Labour and Small Enterprise Development.
Madam Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Labour and Small Enterprise Development, there are several government lending agencies in Trinidad and Tobago. Unfortunately, the question does not specify the agency from which the information is being sought. It is not possible, therefore, to answer the question with any degree of specificity, and the member may be advised to file the question with further and better particulars.
Supplemental member for Shogunas East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honourable Minister, is it possible for you to, as we say, A, NEDCO? Could you give details of NEDCO in this case as the Minister responsible?
Madam Speaker, if that question is posed properly, I will answer the question. But at this time, I certainly do not have that information.
Member for Shogunas East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. In this case, question 181 with respect to the Minister of Labour and Small Enterprise Development.
Minister of Labour and Small Enterprise Development.
Madam Speaker, the total outstanding loans made by the National Entrepreneurship Development Company Limited, NEDCO, as at March 31st, 2019 is 5,171.
Supplemental member for Shogunas East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honourable Minister, is it possible for you to indicate the outstanding loans, what percentage of those are irrecoverable?
Minister of Labour and Small Enterprise Development.
Madam Speaker, I do not have that information with me at this time.
Member for Shogunas East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question 182 to the Minister of Labour and Small Enterprise Development.
Minister of Labour and Small Enterprise Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. A, the concept of work of equal value lies at the heart of the fundamental right of equal remuneration for men and women for work of equal value and the promotion of equality. Whilst there is no official finalized policy, the Ministry of Labour and Small Enterprise Development conducted national stakeholder consultations in Trinidad on August 24th, 2018, and in Tobago on September 21st, 2018, on the establishment of employment standards legislation. Amongst the issues being considered is a recommendation for the enshrining of the principle of equal pay for equal work, irrespective of gender. It should be noted that the principle of equal pay for work of equal value is practiced within the public service, as officers, whether public servants or contract officers, are paid equally for work of equal value, irrespective of their gender. By virtue of sections 80 and 81 of the Industrial Relations Act, Chapter 8801, the Industrial Relations Advisory Committee has been established to advise the Honourable Minister on any matter relating to industrial relations on which the Minister requests advice, and to keep the Act under review. The Act is being consistently reviewed, and the Advisory Committee submitted a draft policy position paper on employment standards to the Minister on July 23, 2018 for review. In the said position paper, the Advisory Committee noted that at present several basic terms and conditions of work are set out in the laws of Trinidad and Tobago, specifically within the Minimum Wages Act, which set out hours of work, the Workmen's Compensation Act, the Occupational Safety and Health Act, the Retrenchment and Severance Benefits Act, the Maternity Protection Act, the Equal Opportunity Act, and the Children's Act. Notwithstanding the fact that at present several basic terms and conditions of work are legislated, the Advisory Committee believes that further definition of the rights and responsibilities of workers and employees and employers in the workplace is required not only to realize the decent work agenda, but also to develop a peaceful, competitive, and protective industrial relations climate to the benefit of Trinidad and Tobago. The answer to Part B, it should be noted that this is a draft policy paper which has to be finalized and therefore submitted to Cabinet for approval. At present, all stakeholder comments received by the Ministry have been collated and are currently under consideration. In answer to Part C, the draft policy paper on employment standards contemplates the creation of an employment standards bill that will provide for the following. 1. General provisions in respect of the scope of application of the legislation. 2. The provision of written particulars of employment. 3. Non-discrimination in the workplace, which enshrines the principle that men and women shall be entitled to equal pay for work of equal value. 4. A safe and healthy workplace environment. 5. Terms and conditions of work, regulation of working time and leave provisions. 6. Termination of employment. And 7. Monitoring and compliance and enforcement. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Supplemental, member for
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Having listened to all of the information, could the Honourable Minister indicate by when we can expect to see the policy statement be brought for us for implementation?
Minister of Labour and Small Enterprise Development.
As soon as we have completed our review of the recommendations, it will be brought.
Member for Oropouche East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Question number 203 to the Honourable Minister of Public Utilities.
Minister of Public Utilities.
Madam Speaker, information from the Water and Sewerage Authority, WASA, does not support the allegations that WASA granted a waiver of approximately $500,000 to Nutramix hatchery development at Rootville Road for a private Riverlet Road for a private commercial facility. The expansion of the distribution network to provide pipe-borne water to the population is the responsibility of the Water and Sewerage Authority. However, in the discharge of this responsibility, the authority from time to time engages in joint ventures arrangements with the private sector, as this is the practice in the utility sector, which is characterized by high capital expenditure. The opportunity for such a collaboration presented itself when the Ministry of Works and Transport was constructing a bridge along the route across the Caroni River and undertaking major repairs to the Rootville Road in close proximity to where Nutramix Limited has been building a state-of-the-art hatchery. WASA was invited to install valves along the roadway. This is the normal practice when the Ministry of Works and Transport is developing roadway infrastructure in an area so as to minimize inconvenience to the traveling public in the future. Madam Speaker, Couva is one of the fastest growing areas in the country, and this work will facilitate the development of the area as well as generate immediate benefits to the authority from the commercial sale of water to residents and existing businesses.
Member for Chaguanas West.
Honourable Minister, could you indicate to this House the cost of this joint venture between the Water and Sewerage Authority and Nutramix?
Minister of Public Utilities.
Madam Speaker, the work that, as I said, that was done by the Water and Sewerage Authority is work that is traditionally done when repairs are being done to a particular bridge. And therefore, these were the works that were conducted. The private sector arrangement involved the provision of heavy equipment, right, at a cost of approximately cost of that heavy equipment was about $200,000, with WASA providing technical assistance.
Member for Chaguanas West.
Honourable Minister, are you aware that there's a principle in the utility sector that the user pays, and that therefore if there's any scope of works and there's a benefit to any user, that user pays? Are you aware of that principle?
Minister of Public Utilities.
Madam Speaker, that principle, yes, we understand that principle, but it is not applicable in this particular case. Because here it is, this was work that was being conducted by the Ministry of Works. This area was earmarked for development, both industrial and commercial. At the end of the day, there was certain work that needed to be done by WASA. You could not have gone there after you have fixed the work by the Ministry of Works and then go afterwards and do the work by the Ministry of WASA. It just does not make sense. So this was done there to facilitate future development by WASA, and they will get tremendous revenue coming from commercial and residential use.
Member for Oropuch East.
Thank you very much for the explanation, Mr. Minister. Mr. Minister, in light of this very good coincidence of the Ministry of Works fixing a bridge and a private commercial entity being established, in light of this good coincidence, could you indicate to us whether joint ventures of this kind are part of a policy framework that other private sector players and commercial developers can benefit from that policy as well?
Minister of Public
or would we have to
Utilities.
rely on a coincidence of sort?
Minister of Public Utilities.
Madam Speaker, as I've said in the utilities sector, both at TNTech and in other utilities, this is something that is practiced, and that is something that is common practice. And therefore, it is something that has happened, and there have been occasions way back in other times when the similar types of arrangements was actually put in place. Therefore, again, I want to reiterate that this is work, and I'm sure you're not objecting to the constituents getting a bridge that was in badly need of repair being repaired. And therefore, that is work that was earmarked to be done by the Ministry of Works. And as is customary, WASA, working with the Ministry of Works, got the work done at that point in time.
Very well done.
Member for Oropuch East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Question number 204 to the Minister of Works and Transport.
Minister of Works and Transport.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, question 204. Madam Speaker, this matter is being negotiated. However, it is noteworthy that the state has not paid 1 cent to the owners of the building which once housed the Kedona Drive-In Cinema. Thank you.
Supplemental member for Oropuch East.
Is the Minister suggesting that full and final settlement on this matter is outstanding for another government to undertake?
Minister of Works and Transport.
Madam Speaker, I am sure this matter will be settled before 2045. When another government might be here. The Ministry of Works do not negotiate final payment. It is done by the Ministry of Finance under the Valuation Department, and the Ministry of Works will be guided once that decision is taken. Thank you.
Oropuch East.
Thank you very much, Minister, for your flamboyant response. Could I ask, for example, where are we with the negotiations on that business? Do we expect it to be settled soon? And when can you tell the population, before you demit office soon, that that matter will be settled?
Minister of Works and Transport.
Madam Speaker, some time ago, I saw on a UNC Facebook page, the Minister of Works got $100 million. 2 weeks after that, I heard the leader of the opposition on a platform saying the Minister of Works got $140 million. How much is it? Fake. 1 week after that, I heard the leader of the opposition say the Minister of Works got $130 million. Yeah. How much is it really? Madam Speaker, my information is that the owners of the Kedona Drive-In does not own the land. No claim have been made for the land, and a claim is being negotiated for substantially less. Madam Speaker, it's important to note that the previous government approved $150 million for land acquisition. This government reduced the claim to $89 million for 24 properties. It is impossible to understand how the leader of the opposition could say on a platform that $130 million is being paid for one of the properties. Thank you.
Akarima, supplemental.
In view of the ethical issues involved, do you not think that you should have recused yourself from answering this question?
Minister of Works and Transport.
Madam Speaker, it is difficult to accept that people who served in government does not understand that the Ministry of Works does not interfere in land valuation.
Under you.
Well,
Forget about point 14 to San Fernando.
Madam Speaker, thank you. Okay. Madam Speaker, again, the Ministry of Works and Transport and the Minister of Works and Transport do not interfere in the acquisition of land. It is done by the Valuation Department under the Ministry of Finance. Thank you.
Supplemental, member for Oropuchi.
So, Minister, you are confirming to us today, is it not, that at this stage in that development works there, you don't have a clue as to how much money will be used to settle that property, or any settlement involving that parcel of land?
Minister of Works and Transport.
Madam Speaker, again, the government did approve $89 million from $150 million as approved by the previous government. It is expected that all the properties to be acquired will fall within the approved allocation. Thank you.
Member for Oropuchi East.
We have to do that as well. Question number 205 to the, to the very distinguished Minister of Housing and Urban Development.
Minister of Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the investigation into the alleged matter is currently ongoing. Consequently, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development cannot comment or divulge any information at this stage due to the sensitive nature of the matter. However, the Ministry, together with its agency, the Trinidad and Tobago Housing Development Corporation, is cooperating fully with the authorities with respect to the said investigation, Madam Speaker.
Supplemental, member for Oropuchi East.
Thank you very much for the clarity, Minister. Could you indicate whether this report or matters connected to this have been sent to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service?
Minister of Housing and Urban Development.
Madam Speaker, yes, I can confirm. As a matter of fact, the matter is being investigated by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
Request for leave to move the adjournment of the House on definite matters of urgent public importance, statements by ministers, personal explanations, introduction of bills, motions relating to the business or sittings of the House and moved by a minister, public business, government business, motions.
Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to move the following motion standing in my name. Be it resolved that this House adopt the second report of the Standing Finance Committee of the House of Representatives for the fourth session, 2018-2019, 11th Parliament, on the consideration of proposals for the supplementation of appropriation for the fiscal year 2019. Madam Speaker, starting with the global situation. On the face of it, global economic growth appears robust. The world economy is expected to expand at a steady pace of 3% in 2019 and 2020, and growth rates in many developed countries are close to the potential, while unemployment rates have fallen to historical lows. Among the developing economies, the Asian regions remain on a strong growth trajectory, while many commodity exporting countries are continuing a gradual recovery. However, short-term risks are rising with the potential to disrupt economic activity. These include escalating trade disputes and an undercurrent of geopolitical tensions. We in Trinidad and Tobago must therefore be ever mindful of the fact that we are a small commodity-producing economy that is vulnerable to exogenous shocks. However, as I will demonstrate, the present government has weathered the oil price shock that began in 2014 and which has continued up to the present day. It is worth reminding the population that in mid-2014, oil prices were at a high of US $100 per barrel. By the end of that year, however, oil prices had fallen to US $57 per barrel. In 2015, the election year, oil prices averaged only US $46 per barrel, dropping as low as $33 per barrel. Government expenditure continued apace up to the election, however, as if there was no tomorrow. By 2016, oil prices had dropped as low as US $26 per barrel, averaging only US $38 per barrel in that year. While there has been a modest recovery in prices since 2016, we have not seen $100 oil for the last 5 years, and the prices are still volatile. Reduced oil prices have also had an effect on natural gas prices, which are far less than they were 12 years ago. I make these points, Madam Speaker, to illustrate how far we have come since the oil price shock of 2014-2015, which resulted in a reduction in annual revenues from petroleum of $20 billion, from $28 billion in 2014 to $8 billion in 2016. These figures are published in Appendix 20 of the 2018 Review of the Economy, for those who wish to know, and represent a 38% reduction in government revenue between 2014 and 2016. There are few countries in the world, Madam Speaker, that can withstand a 38% reduction in revenue and survive. But through careful and prudent financial management by this government, we have managed to stabilize our economy, keep people in jobs, keep the country running on an even keel, and return our country to growth. The pessimists and opposition voices inside and outside of Parliament would have us believe that it is not so. But the facts and figures don't lie. Looking at domestic conditions now, Madam Speaker, in my last budget statement in October 2018, I announced that the Central Statistical Office had estimated that the Trinidad and Tobago economy had grown in real terms by 1.9% in 2018, thus reversing the decline that had started in 2014. The news of an economic turnaround was met with cynicism by those opposed to us, and by a number of perennially negative commentators who seem to be only comfortable when things are going badly. Indeed, Madam Speaker, some of these commentators appear incapable of seeing anything good in a positive report, and are always searching for something prejudicial to say. I have even heard it said that 1% growth is nothing to shout about. But you can be certain, Madam Speaker, that if it was a 1% decline, they would be propagandizing loudly about an economic collapse. However, since the last budget statement, we have had confirmation of our economic recovery from the major international agencies, such as the IMF, the United Nations Economic and Policy Analysis Division, and the World Bank. Indeed, as recently as last Thursday, the IMF's communications director confirmed in a live press conference that our economy began to improve in 2017 and returned to growth in 2018. Allow me to illustrate these facts with actual data, Madam Speaker. I have in my possession the quarterly GDP figures from our Central Statistical Office for 2017 and 2018. In the second quarter of 2017, our GDP declined by 5.6%. In the third quarter, it declined by 3.3%. And in the fourth quarter, it declined by 1.9%. You will observe that the decline in GDP was slowing down as the year progressed. Hence the reason why the IMF has said that our economy began to improve in 2017. Following this, in the first quarter of 2018, our GDP switched from negative to positive, growing by 0.9%. This was followed by growth of 2.1% in the second quarter of 2018 and growth of 1.5% in the third quarter of 2018. This is actual data, Madam Speaker, not projections. And according to the CSO, therefore, we have had 3 consecutive quarters of economic growth in 2018. For those who may be sidetracked by the barrage of misinformation that comes from uninformed or biased commentators, 3 consecutive quarters of growth after a period of decline is a clear indication of economic recovery. We await the final figures for the fourth quarter of 2018 from the CSO to confirm the actual growth figure for 2018. Looking back at 2015, Madam Speaker, it was under those very difficult conditions, with a huge drop in revenue of almost 40%, that the new government, led by the able Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, put in place a carefully sequenced program of macroeconomic adjustment and reform. This established the framework and policy strategies for paving the way to a resumption of self-sustaining growth and prosperity. By 2018, a disciplined fiscal stance had become ingrained as a feature of this government's macroeconomic policy framework to bring expenditure broadly in line with revenue potential. As you will appreciate, Madam Speaker, the expenditure reduction and revenue enhancement programs represented a very challenging policy agenda. Yet we kept the program firmly on track. We acted swiftly and decisively to adapt and to strengthen policies as events unfolded. We curtailed unproductive spending and embarked on continual improvement in the efficiency of operations of government and the public sector. Our 2019 budget estimates reflected the results of our sustained efforts when we budgeted for an expenditure of $51.77 billion and revenue of $47.72 billion, supported by financing of $4.05 billion, or a deficit of 2.5% of GDP, well within international norms. Madam Speaker, the recovery of our economy in the face of a global slowdown was no doubt due to the disciplined fiscal strategy embedded in our economic transformation agenda. With the revival of growth now established and projected to stabilize around 2% annually by 2021, we are now strengthening other supporting policies, strategies, and reforms to ensure that growth over the long term will be sustainable, bringing lasting employment and greater equality of incomes and opportunities. In particular, Madam Speaker, we're ensuring that natural gas production will continue to be a major driver of economic growth. Largely because of the efforts of our energy sector negotiating teams, and I may say our expert negotiating teams, natural gas production increased in 2018 to an average of 3.63 billion standard cubic feet per day, an 8% increase over the 2017 average of 3.36 billion cubic feet per day. Further, gas production continues to increase and is expected to reach an average of 3.8 billion cubic feet per day in 2019. Indeed, Madam Speaker, production is already averaging 3.81 billion cubic feet per day in the first quarter of 2019. You should note that this data is readily available on the Ministry of Energy website. On this matter, Madam Speaker, I have taken note of alarmist newspaper articles about a recent announcement by BP that it may not be able to guarantee a continued gas supply for Train 1 of the Atlantic LNG plant. The unwarranted negativity that is evident in these publications follows a pattern that is endemic in some quarters. Allow me to clarify. The BP wells with less than satisfactory results are only 2 in number and are infill wells in existing gas fields. Unlike exploration wells, infill wells are normally brought into production almost immediately. I'm advised that one of these infill wells will go into production shortly, although at lower volumes than anticipated, leaving just one unproductive well. All of this drama, therefore, is totally unnecessary. It should be noted, Madam Speaker, and this is fact as opposed to fiction, in February 2019, just 3 months ago, gas production almost reached 4 billion standard cubic feet per day, the highest production since March 2015. Accordingly, Madam Speaker, notwithstanding recent events, the Ministry of Energy, after consultation with the major oil and gas companies, has advised that gas production is still expected to average 3.8 billion cubic feet per day in 2018. It is noteworthy that when BHP Billiton announced the discovery of a significant gas find in 2018, and another encouraging gas find as recently as April 2019, and the company made it clear that it intended to make a huge financial investment in Trinidad and Tobago, We did not hear one peep out of the naysayers. Clearly, they're allergic to good news. Further, Madam Speaker, oil production is projected to stabilize in 2019 and thereafter trend steadily upwards from the current 60,000 barrels per day in 2019 to over 80,000 barrels per day by 2023. This projected expansion is partly due to the performance of the newly established oil production company Heritage Petroleum, which has begun to ramp up its exploration and production activities, as well as the planned activities of other local producers. We also envisage that, barring unforeseen circumstances, the resumption of refining operations at Pointe-à-Pierre could take place by December 2019, since a number of strong proposals for the reopening of the refinery are expected. Also, the Caribbean gas, chemical, methanol to dimethyl ether plant is expected to come on stream later this year. This expansion in the energy sector has already had a knock-on effect on the non-oil sector, which had been sluggish for some time. In this context, I wish to commend the recent commitment by the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association to convert Trinidad and Tobago into a model of production for the region by doubling manufacturing output through local and foreign investment. We are supporting this comprehensive manufacturing strategy as we strive to eliminate waste and corruption, improve the national work ethic, and the processes for doing business. Further, Madam Speaker, under the Belt and Road Initiative pioneered by China, the China Harbour Engineering Company is moving to modernize the communities of the Southwest Peninsula with a proposed new dry dock and shipbuilding ship repair facility in La Brea. I'm told that market assessment and feasibility studies have been completed, and I am advised that if all goes well, this public-private partnership arrangement to implement this important project will be in place in the near future. At the same time, the Beijing Construction Engineering Group executed a contract in February 2019 for the design and construction of the new Phoenix Park Industrial Estate in Couva. Both projects will generate high-value jobs during the construction and operational phases. The Moruga Agro-Processing and Light Industrial Park will also soon transit from the design stage to the construction stage. Our model of economic adjustment has thus minimized the negative impact on the citizens of the country. Inflation remains at very low levels, at 1% in 2018, the lowest in decades. Our active and enlightened social agenda is geared to averting marginalization and alleviating poverty. Our well-targeted social safety net is protecting the vulnerable from the short-term costs and dislocation of adjustment. For example, eligible former employees of Petrotrin will soon benefit from a land distribution program involving ownership of residential lots and access to agricultural sites with associated financial support. Vulnerable persons in the society are being increasingly supported with effective social policies. The social safety net base for our retirees, our working families, our senior citizens, and major vulnerable groups has increased by more than 5,000 since September 2015, from 156,000 to over 161,000 persons. Through improvements in efficiency and delivery, we have distributed over 1,000 additional food cards to deserving households and an additional 2,500 public assistance grants. We have also increased the number of persons in receipt of senior citizens' pension by 1,600, while significantly increasing the cap on pensions. Madam Speaker, we have also invested in our people through our education, health, and housing programs. The Government Assistance for Tuition Expenses, GATE, a revolutionary program of the PNM, launched in 2004, and the Higher Education Loan Program, together with free universal education at both the primary and secondary schools, are generating a cadre of human resources to meet the requirements of our growing economy. Our hospital development strategy will provide access to quality health care for our citizens throughout Trinidad and Tobago. The Arima Hospital is more than 75% complete. The Point Fortin Hospital is more than 60% complete. The proposed new Sangre Grande Hospital and the reconstruction of the Port of Spain General Hospital Central Block are at early stages of work commencement. Just this morning, a contract was signed. while the delivery of health care at the Couva Hospital will also commence shortly. Affordable quality housing is being provided to address the supply of housing units to meet the demands of over 175,000 applicants. We are completing previously stalled projects with almost 1,000 units already delivered. We are also initiating new projects to provide safe and affordable housing units for our citizens. Under the Aided Self-Help Program, 700 qualified individuals are now preparing to construct their own homes. Under the Housing and Village Improvement Program, 57 homes are being constructed or improved in the first village identified for attention, Samuel Cooper in Maruga, and it is my understanding this is also happening in San Fernando West. Under the Public-Private Partnership Arrangement, 201 units are under construction in Cunupia, 72 units in Faizabad, 160 in Mount Hope, 98 in Trustre Larima, 58 in Malabar, 53 in Corinth, 102 in Harmony Hall, 86 in Prey Village, Maruga, 210 in South Key, 65 in Gomez Trace, Maruga, and 504 in Curragh. The involvement of the private sector is being consolidated with the well-timed, and I must congratulate them, commendable decision of Republic Bank to secure a US $75 million loan from the International Finance Corporation to assist in home construction, especially for middle-income households. We are now ensuring that our housing construction program, including the public-private partnership arrangement, is put on a self-sustaining basis. Given our objective to complete 6,000 units by 2020 and to roll out 3,000 per annum thereafter. The proceeds of our first issue of housing bonds at an attractive rate of 4.5% per annum over 5 years, due within the next 2 months, will be utilized to immediately accelerate the housing construction program, with the proceeds from mortgages issued by the Trinidad and Tobago Mortgage Finance Company being utilized to finance on an ongoing basis development and sale of houses. Key attributes of the housing bonds would include: the bonds will be offered to individuals in the first instance. The bonds would be underwritten so that any bonds not subscribed by individuals would be placed with institutional investors on the secondary market after the close of the bond issue. Initial investors with a minimum of $5,000 investment will receive priority for a housing unit once that investor meets the eligibility criteria of the HTC. With over 75,000 qualified persons on the HTC list, we expect to be able to assist a significant number of persons through this mechanism. Madam Speaker, our economic resilience has also been anchored on wide-ranging infrastructure activity, including expansion of the road network, coastal protection, and advances in the delivery of A&C services. The San Fernando to Point Fortin Highway. This important project has been rescued from the brink of disaster that we found it in 2015, with the main contractor in bankruptcy. Through astute management, we were able to recover $1 billion from the funds for the project, and construction works are now well underway, with completion scheduled for December 2020. The Churchill Roosevelt Highway extension to Sangre Grande is being constructed in phases with completion scheduled for January 2020. The Valencia-Toco Highway is now at an advanced stage of design, completion, and environmental impact assessment. The Maruga Main Road is being comprehensively rehabilitated with scheduled completion in 2020. Coastal protection works in several areas are re-establishing coastal communities. Preparation for the construction of a new modern airport terminal building in Tobago is well advanced. The Andean Development Bank of Latin America is providing technical assistance for the project, and the main terminal is being constructed by a design build finance contractor with associated works by subcontractors with public financing. Construction work is scheduled to commence in December 2019 with practical completion by early 2021. Caribbean Airlines is managing the air bridge carefully and through close monitoring has been adjusting its schedule as required to facilitate smooth travel between Trinidad and Tobago. In 2018, CAL provided 1,053,910 seats to and from Tobago, with usage of 86% or 962,302 seats. In the first 3 months of 2019, CAL has provided 250,071 seats with utilization of 223,991 seats, or 90%. CAL has also become profitable in 2018. Indeed, after years of billion-dollar losses under the previous government, Caribbean Airlines under this government has moved from perennial loss-making to sustainable profitability. The Sea Bridge is being consolidated with the arrival shortly of the new modern fast ferry, Jean de Valette, which has been leased for a 1-year period, providing additional capacity for 800 passengers and 230 cars. This fast ferry would join the Galleon's Passage and the Trinidad and Tobago Spirit and provide the necessary surplus capacity to allow proper maintenance of the existing vessels. In mid-2020, the arrangements on the Sea Bridge will be further upgraded and rationalized with the arrival of 2 brand new state-of-the-art fast ferries, now under construction for Trinidad and Tobago by Austral Ships Pty Limited and Incat Tasmania Pty Limited. Before I leave Tobago, I am pleased to announce that as Minister of Finance, I intend to grant approval in the very near future to the Tobago House of Assembly to raise loan financing on the local market, a budget promise in the sum of $300 million for a number of development projects in our sister isle, including health and sporting facilities, housing, roads and bridges, coastal protection, and the THA's innovative Intelligent Island ICT project. We have now completed 3.5 years of careful management of the national economy. We have repaired our fiscal accounts and appropriately addressed the collapse in government revenues. We have also returned the economy to growth and expect to stabilize growth at 2% annually by 2021. It was these considerations which led the government in its 2019 budget statement to program revenue and expenditure estimates of $47.72 billion and $51.77 billion respectively, with a deficit of $4.05 billion or 2.5% of GDP. Fiscal consolidation also remains an ongoing project with the strengthening of tax administration with the soon-to-be established Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority and the Gambling and Gaming Commission. I can report that the Joint Select Committee meetings for these 2 groundbreaking institutions have been concluded, and the reports of the committees with the amended legislation will soon be laid in this House. In fact, the report on the GSC of the Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority was laid earlier today. Public sector debt, which had been rising in the context of unavoidable fiscal deficits, has now been stabilized at 62% of GDP in 2018, well within international benchmarks. In the context of the carefully targeted adjustment effort, import demand has been restrained, with imports falling to US $5.24 billion in 2018, while exports have remained higher than imports at US $8.33 billion in 2018. As a result, Madam Speaker, the country is now running a significant balance of payments surplus, a reversal of the 2016 situation when our balance of payments was negative. Our foreign reserves have been impacted over the last 3 years as a result of this government's policy decision to defend our exchange rate so as to minimize inflation and avoid the adverse impact of a currency shock on the cost of living. However, with over 8 months import cover, our official gross foreign reserves far exceed typical benchmarks of reserve adequacy. Further, with the emerging expansion of the energy sector, our reserves are sustainable well into the foreseeable future. Indeed, when the official central bank figures are examined, we see that the decline in foreign reserves has slowed considerably, falling only US $150 million between September 2018 and March 2019. Financial buffers remain substantial. On the 3rd of May 2019, just a few days ago, assets in the Heritage and Stabilization Fund hit an all-time high of US $6.1 billion, Madam Speaker. While foreign exchange reserves at the central bank currently amount to a healthy US $7.3 billion, or a combined amount of US $13.4 billion. There is also available within the local commercial banks the amount of US $2.5 billion for commercial and individual transaction purposes. Simply put, sound and stable macroeconomic conditions, in particular low inflation and stable interest rates, have laid the foundation on which savings and investment are being generated in an environment of certainty with improving prospects for growth. Madam Speaker, the fiscal outturn for the first half of 2019 points strongly in the direction of fiscal sustainability. Our 2019 budget was predicated on an oil price of US $65 per barrel and a gas price of US 2.75 per MMBTU. Current prices are not deviating significantly from these assumptions. However, global energy prices declined by 17% over the period October 2018 to February 2019, which resulted in a loss of revenue, in particular royalties on oil and supplementary petroleum tax. Oil prices fell after recording a high of US 70 per barrel in October 2018 to a low of US 49 per barrel in December 2018. But since then, prices have recovered to an average of US 63 in April 2019. Gas prices are now hovering around US 2.65 per MMBTU, but over the period of October 2018 to April 2019, the price was 3.26 per MMBTU, above the budget estimates. Revenue in the first half, I'm pleased to announce, was $706 million above the program revenue estimated in the context of the budgeted $47.72 billion for the year. On the other hand, as a result of our tight cash flow situation, expenditure in the first half of 2019 was $2.55 billion below programmed expenditure in the context of the total budgeted for the year of $51.77 billion. The originally estimated deficit for 2019 was $4.05 billion, but for the purposes of administration, with capital revenue programmed for the second half of the year, a deficit of $5.11 billion was programmed for the first 6 months of the year. This is what we had programmed, Madam Speaker, as we looked at cash flow, a deficit of $5.11 billion for the first 6 months of the year. However, I'm happy to report that the actual recorded deficit for the first half of 2019 was only $1.85 billion. This performance is another indication of our ability to manage the country's finances prudently and carefully. Madam Speaker, the achievement of the stabilization objectives with revenue and expenditure, now in broad alignment, represents a solid foundation on which transformation and growth would now be anchored. The increase in government revenue of $706 million in the first half of 2019 was mainly due to higher than anticipated receipts from taxes on incomes and profits, $195 million. Taxes on international trade, $28 million. Non-tax revenue, $105 million. Capital revenue, $926 million. These are all higher than anticipated collections, Madam Speaker. These increases were partially offset by lower than anticipated receipts from taxes on goods and services of $578 million. The better than projected performance of taxes on incomes and profits was primarily due to higher receipts of $452 million from other companies. However, this was offset by lower than projected receipts of $395 million from oil companies as a result of the 17% decline in oil prices in the first quarter of fiscal 2019. Non-tax revenue also performed well above expectations, due in the main from equity profits from the central bank and state enterprises. Capital revenue was also higher than expected, due to a number of transactions related to the repayment of debt owed by CLICO to the government of Trinidad and Tobago. In terms of expenditure, recurrent expenditure for the first 6 months was lower than the anticipated of $23.63 billion, with reductions in expenditure in goods and services and interest payments amounting to $1.47 billion. Looking forward, Madam Speaker, we have recognized the importance of the achievement of a sustainable growth, not only the overall fiscal position, but the very nature of the expenditure being envisaged. As a result, we intend to direct resources into areas which would support not only the private sector in its business activities, but also in enhancing growth and development, including infrastructure rollout, roads, highways, bridges, and hospitals, discharging arrears to commercial suppliers and contractors, as well as liquidating VAT refunds with a view to improving business conditions. As a result of our policy of maintaining key public sector investment, in particular in the areas of infrastructure, as well as our tax rate, as to put our tax relations with the commercial sector on a current basis, total expenditure has been revised upwards to 52.07 billion, an increase of approximately 300 million over the budgeted 2019 expenditure of 51.77 billion. On the other hand, because of lower oil total revenue, which was budgeted at, because of lower oil prices, total revenue, which was budgeted at 47.72 billion, is projected to fall by 221 million to 47.5 billion, with a resultant overall fiscal deficit of 4.57 billion compared with 4.05 billion as budgeted. The oil price assumption used in the 2019 budget statement will therefore be adjusted to $60 per barrel. But with gas prices averaging US 3.26 per MMBTU over the period October 2018 to April 2019, the gas price assumption has been revised upwards to US $3 per MMBTU from the 2.75 used in the original budget. We are also providing through supplementation, as is in the report of the committee, Madam Speaker, a much needed 1.839 billion for in-visit expenditure in 18 areas. And they're all contained, Madam Speaker, in the report of the committee, which I will not go through in much detail because it is all available for members. Simply, the judiciary will receive 57.68 billion additional for salaries and arrears of salaries, for vacant positions, for arrears of rent. The service commissions will receive $3 million for security services and assessment of senior officials in the public sector. The Office of the Prime Minister will receive 12 million to meet the operational costs of the Children's Authority, among other things. The Ministry of Finance will receive 709 million to reimburse the Infrastructure Development Fund, from which funds were used to finance the exit costs associated with the Petroleum Company of Trinidad and Tobago. This will ensure that adequate funding is available for our development program for the rest of the year. The Control of Accounts would receive 18 million for pensions and gratuities. The Ministry of National Security will receive 200 million for CCTV camera services, for janitorial services, for the Civilian Conservation Corps and the Strategic Services Agency. The Ministry of Attorney General will receive an extra 50 million for legal fees. Well deserved. The Ministry of Education will receive 50 million for examination invigilators, for school feeding and examination fees. The Ministry of Labour will receive 39.3 million for the OGT program. The Ministry of Public Utilities will receive 200 million to meet outstanding payments to DSALCOT. The Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government will receive 39 million for salaries for municipal police officers, for water trucking and rent at municipal corporations, among other things. Works and Transport will receive 85.7 million for daily paid employees and for the charter hire of a new high-speed passenger vessel, the Jean de Valette. The Police Service will receive 75 million for salaries and allowances for police officers, for payment for utilities, rent, equipment acquisition, and other bills. The Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs will receive 1.6 million for minor equipment. The Ministry of Communications will receive the sum of 10 million for TDT for live broadcasts. The Ministry of Social Development will receive 227.5 million to meet the increases in senior citizens' pensions, as well as for flood victims. The Public Sector Investment Program has been increased for the Personnel Department in the sum of 2 million to start outfitting a new building for the staff of the CPO. National Security in the sum of 7 million to meet the maintenance costs of vessels utilized by the Coast Guard. The Ministry of Housing and Urban Development in the sum of 48 million to pay contractors for the refurbishment of HCC apartments, for the Housing and Village Improvement Program and works in Greater Port of Spain. The Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs in the sum of 4.42 million for refurbishing our embassy in Washington and the High Commission in London. I now turn to procurement. I am advised that the Office of Procurement Regulation, the OPR, has now reached 95% of its required staffing. Further, the OPR has reported that its software application is being installed to facilitate the establishment of a comprehensive database on public procurement, including information of tenders received, the award and value of contracts. Additionally, the procurement depository required in accordance with Section 26 of the Procurement Act is expected to be accessible within the next 3 months. The OPR has also advised that it will soon be in a position to roll out a number of handbooks for the guidance of procuring entities across the state sector. The regulations. Since my last report to Parliament in February 2019 on the status of the preparation of the procurement regulations, essential for implementation of the Act, further progress has been made. The OPR undertook a comprehensive review of our comments and the comments of Council and reverted to the Ministry of Finance at the end of March 2019, having treated most of the issues raised. Detailed comments on the redrafted regulations will be submitted by the Ministry of Finance to the procurement regulator in the next few days. Accordingly, I'm advised that barring unforeseen circumstances, further proclamation of important sections of the Act can be achieved by August 2019. Following proclamation, the regulator proposes a 3-day workshop for familiarizing procuring entities with the regulations, together with a 6-month transition period to allow entities to fulfill the requirements. Before I conclude, Madam Speaker, I have taken note of a number of recent articles and editorials about the Trinidad and Tobago economy, which are not based on any facts, but rely simply on sweeping statements, unproven theories, and haste. These publications have common distinguishing features. They are all negative and defeatist, as if the authors have a fervent wish that we as a country must fail. But notwithstanding this campaign of negativity, the data that is available from our central bank, our Central Statistical Office, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Energy, and in the public domain confirms the indisputable fact that we have recovered from the oil shock of 2014 and we have stabilized our economy. Indisputable. For those who may still be confused by the noise from the naysayers, allow me to place on record some hard facts as opposed to fiction. In stark contrast to the mantra of doom and gloom, our local banks are enjoying unprecedented growth in incomes and profits. Republic Bank, for example, has increased its annual profits after tax from 1.17 billion in 2015, when we came in, to 1.32 billion in 2018, an increase of 13%, with its total assets moving from 66 billion to 70 billion. Not to be left behind, First Citizens Bank has increased its profits after tax from 630 million in 2015 to 674 million in 2018, an increase of 7%. FCB's total assets also increased from 37.5 billion to 42 billion over the period. And for those of the public who invested in the public offering, from FCB, FCB's price is now $37 a day, up $5 from $32 in the public offering, per share, sorry. FCB's share price is now $37, up $5 from the $32 when we floated that public offering. All of this information, Madam Speaker, is readily available on the websites of these banks. Turning now to consumer credit. The net credit to the private sector by banks and lending institutions, a well-established indicator of private sector investment and consumer confidence, has grown from 51 billion in December 2015 to 58 billion in December 2018, an increase of 7 billion or 14% over the period. People are investing and they're spending money in this country. Credit has increased by $7 billion over the last 3 years. If we look at prices year on year, retail prices have increased by only 0.8% between March 2018 and March 2019. While food inflation has been contained at just 2% year on year, Madam Speaker. These are some of the lowest inflation rates for Trinidad and Tobago for decades, a direct result of our fiscal and monetary policy. Another indicator, life insurance, reveals that the total life insurance contracts in Trinidad and Tobago have grown from 3.8 billion in 2015 to 4.4 billion in 2018, Madam Speaker. And for those who do not know, Madam Speaker, life insurance policies are one of the strongest forms of savings available to our citizens. So life insurance policies have grown from 3.8 billion in 2015 to 4.4 billion in 2018. Other indicators of the health of our insurance industry, such as total assets, annuities, deposits, mutual funds, all show significant growth over the last 3 years. The total money supply in circulation in Trinidad and Tobago has also increased from 85 billion in 2015 to 89 billion in 2018, Madam Speaker. Mortgage lending has also increased significantly since 2015. Vehicle sales continue to charge along per year at an average rate of over 25,000 new registrations per year, with the total number of vehicles on the road now well over the 1 million mark. All of this is available on the Central Bank website. And with all of these positive developments over the last 3.5 years, the dogged persistence and moaning and groaning of the cynics is baffling. The reality is, Madam Speaker, we have established a foundation on which we can now adopt expansionary initiatives. We can now grow, and this success has not occurred by chance. At this time, we see no need whatsoever to impose any additional burdens on our citizens. In this context, in view of the soon-to-be-established Revenue Authority and the need to allow the new entity to start with a clean slate, I wish to announce there will be a 3-month tax amnesty in this year, starting in mid-June 2019 and extending to mid-September 2019. This amnesty will extend to all forms of taxation, and appropriate legislation to give effect to this measure will be introduced in this House within the next few weeks. Taxpayers are urged to take advantage of this amnesty, file their outstanding returns, pay their back taxes, because once the new Revenue Authority comes on stream, future amnesties are unlikely. Our success, Madam Speaker, is the result of a vision conceptualized while we were out of office and resolutely and consistently implemented while in office. This road has not been easy, but I dare say that no other road would have brought us such success. I have not heard anything meaningful articulated in any other place. We recognize the growth of real incomes is among our principal objectives because it is the only means of securing rising living standards on a sustained basis. We are now changing gears to achieve this objective and to put this economy on a clear path to progress and prosperity. I now wish to commend to this House the report of the Standing Finance Committee and the supplementation of the 2019 appropriation in the sum of $1,839,189,300. With pleasure, Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Honourable members, I will now propose the question for debate. Be it resolved that this House adopt the second report of the Standing Finance Committee of the House of Representatives for the 4th session, 2018-2019, 11th Parliament, on the consideration of proposals for the supplementation of appropriation for the fiscal year 2019. Member for Superior.
With 23 million, she gave me.
Yeah. Can I help?
23 million.
Very much. Madam Speaker, I thank you for allowing me this opportunity to contribute to the debate on the midterm budget review of this government. Madam Speaker, I came here today with some expectation, and I'm sure that the entire population, or the majority of the population, would have had some kind of expectation in anticipation of the words of the Honourable Minister of Finance. And you know, I think what we wanted to hear, I think many people have wanted to hear, what were the plans that the government had to improve their lives, to better their lives. But instead, what we heard was more deflection, more distraction, and all kinds of numbers thrown at us. The minister's admitted he's a magician, he's a wizard, he conjures up numbers, he picks them out of a hat and pelts it at you. So I'm not going to get into a numbers game. I am not getting into a numbers game with the minister today because, you see, At the end of the day, you cannot eat the statistics. You cannot take the numbers and put it in your pocket and go to the grocery to buy your groceries. At the end of the day, Madam Speaker, what we are about on this side is about people-centered development. Yes. And therefore, all the nice figures, whether they're real or not real, whether they match each other, whether they're taken 1 year, cherry-picked from 1 year into the next year, wherever they come from, can give no comfort to the people of Trinidad and Tobago who do not have food on their tables, who do not have jobs, who cannot get proper health care, and all above it, the minister told us what life insurance going up. Life insurance, what is the murder rate today, 184 or more? More. People cannot even be sure they'll be alive from 1 minute to the next. And all that the minister said, no plans. After almost 4 years, this is your 4th year. 4th year in office. Our citizens are virtual hostages. They're trapped in their homes due to runaway crime. More people are finding themselves without a job. Why didn't you give us those numbers? The humanitarian crisis next door in Venezuela is impacting on us here and very adversely so, straining a very fragile and failing economy. Foreign exchange has all but dried up. You know, the minister, they go out in northeast, waves his magic wand, and everything starts disappearing. Forex has disappeared. Water has disappeared.
Oh, yeah. Water in Parliament.
So many things have just... Foreign direct investment has all but dried up. We have heard of no foreign direct investment. Mr. speaks about the DME plant. Well, thanks to us when we were in office. Thanks to us. Mr. speaks of the hospital being how much percent. Thanks to us. Thanks to us. And yet they will not open a completed hospital in Vancouver, fully equipped. They will not open that. Instead, suffer the little children. You know, in 2019 budget, we discovered then that the Petrotrain refinery was being shut down. Now we learn that the Atlantic LNG Train 1 may be mothballed just like the refinery. Now, I am a little disturbed because I heard the minister, in response to a question in this House today about a Train 1, Atlantic LNG Train 1, Mr. said, I'm not answering that question. Guess why? I'm going to answer it in my contribution. Not a single word, Madam Speaker. Not a single word on the Atlantic Train 1, and that must surely that must have us in a different place from the numbers the minister brought and the projections that the minister is making. The minister said that, you know, they are developing new plans and policies and strategies and so on to go forward, yet he gave not one single new plan or policy. Not a single new plan or policy. They were all regurgitated, the same old. Strangely enough, no game changers today. No game changers today. What happened to your 6 game changers? They have all but gone. Collapse. Sandals gone. Dragon deal fly away. Dragon fly away. All these game changers. Do you know the fact that these game changers have gone is in fact a game changer? Because this is where you expected to get the revenue. This is where you expected to get Forex. This is where you expected to grow the economy. It was from your game changers. Some of them repeat each budget that we come here. And now, well, my colleague is reminding me, we reach game over. You will not be there. You talk about 2021, you will not be there in 2021. Game over at this time. And so recently, government told us right here in this House, in the Standing Finance Committee, that government had taken about $700 million from the IDF, the Infrastructure Development Fund, to pay Petrotrain exit costs. Exit costs. Revenue is being redirected away from growth because that's where the IDF, that's what the money is for. Correct. The projects for development were taken out to what? Mothball and shut down the refinery. We are witnessing what the government calls a turnaround. Well, look today, Madam Speaker, with due respect, I would call it a total backtrack. A backtrack to failed PNM policies of the past with the same result. What is it? Collapse of the economy. Our economy has collapsed under this incompetent government. In my response to the last budget in 2019, yes, I asked several questions. My last response in 2019 to your budget contribution in this House. I asked some questions, and I would like to ask them again with your leave, Madam Speaker. They are, Do you feel safer today than you did 3 to 4 years ago? No. Do you feel secure in your job today? No. Has the economy improved? No. Are you confident enough to go into a small business, open a business?
No. Excuse me, members. I think the last time I ruled that I was not going to allow this chorus. Please continue, Member for Superior.
Thank you, Madam. Has your purchasing power increased? The answer is no. Are you getting better health care? The answer is still no. Are your children getting a better education? The answer is still no. Have they fixed or maintained your roads or improved your drainage? The answer is still no. Are you getting basic utilities, especially water? No. Are you satisfied with the government's behavior of the government? The answer is no. Above all, has your quality of life improved? The answer is still no. Do you have any hope, any semblance of hope that this government will make your lives better? The answer is still no. So into your 4th year, all these answers are no up to this point in time. And so this midterm review proposes nothing to change the direction of the downward spiral we are experiencing in the country. What we are witnessing today is a government which thinks that the politics of the past can help them as we move closer to elections. Listen, into your 4th year, nothing for the poor, nothing for the suffering. Today you come to announce a...
Speaker, 53, please, being disturbed.
Honourable members, honourable members, I just want to remind members who are not speaking that we all know how low our ceilings are, so please maintain your volumes to very low, and again, there shouldn't be any running commentaries. Member for Superior.
Thank you very much, Madam. I thank you. And so the minister comes today with 2 fatal elections in front of them, comes to announce game changer, game changer. The one game changer is, listen, don't pay tax for 3 months. You're getting a tax amnesty, as if that could make up for almost 4 years. So is the tax amnesty with respect to payment of taxes, don't pay? Is the tax amnesty, I'm giving you 3 months, Madam, what is program with these people?
On both sides. On both sides. The member for Superior will be heard. And some of us are developing a habit of very loud outbursts that I consider very unparliamentary. Member for Superior.
Thank you very much for your intervention, Madam. So I'm asking the Honourable Minister, in his reply, what exactly is the tax amnesty? Is it I'm going to give you 3 months, I'm not going to come after you for your taxes, you have an amnesty? Madam, I'm asking a question. Why does everybody want to answer me?
Members, everybody will have an opportunity. I realize, as I say, the Minister of Finance always creates anxiety and excitement, but every member will have an opportunity to speak. Superior.
Thank you again. So I'm asking, amnesty is to allow you 3 months, amnesty, and then you pay after the 3 months. I want the minister to explain what he meant when he said a 3-month tax amnesty. They find it very funny, but I'm sure people in the country want to know what you mean by a 3-month tax amnesty. Because a lot of people will be very happy with such an amnesty. And so, Madam, so what we see here today, moving closer to elections, they have been ignoring the needs of citizens while rewarding friends, family, and financiers. They think they can ride out this last year of their term by continuing to be a government of announcements, but actually doing nothing. Announcements we have witnessed from this House, outside of the House today, and other times, which never come to pass. So you have an announcement, local government reform. Last local government elections, you know, where is it? Up to today, that announcement has not materialized, and we are going now into a new local government election, at least by November, according to law, for the earliest in November. Announcements like jobs will be preserved at all costs, while thousands of people are being sent home, no new jobs are being created. Announcements again, like the Dragon Gas
disaster,
San Fernando Waterfront Project, HDC housing program. So here we have, you know, a government cannot run a country by announcements. that never happened. And then they try to con the population or try to hoodwink the population by saying, we are all in this together. So let me go through the announcements of today, madam. One that we all waited to hear, patiently waiting to hear. A serious alarm bell has gone off, sending a very grave warning to our future economic stability. I'm talking about the recent announcement, the failure of BPTT's infill drilling program to secure enough gas to satisfy its obligations to Atlantic's Train 1. This makes it clear that there may now well be a significant shortfall in gas production. Minister came today and he revised the gas price on which we will predicate future activity for the budget, for the economy, reviewed it upwards to, I think, $3 from 2.25, on which the last budget was predicated, to now $3. But how is Atlantic Train 1? What is happening there? How is that going to affect our gas production and therefore revenues to be gained from that gas production? So I think the minister owes, or the government owes, some kind of explanation to the country as to what could happen or what should happen with respect to Atlantic LNG Train 1. This has very serious and profound consequences and major implications for every single sector of our nation, from investment to major infrastructural work and even the most basic social services. What is now crystal clear is that complete lack of planning by the government to make contingency plans will see a further spiral downwards for the country in terms of our energy and economic future. Government has treated the energy sector, our main source of forex and revenue. They've treated that sector with contempt. As a result, the energy sector is now on life support, facing a very uncertain future. The Trinidad Express today reported in an article under the headline, Imbert, and me no disrespect, that's the headline, Imbert to present mid-year review today, that, and under that heading they said, BPTT's infill drilling off the east coast of Trinidad could result in Atlantic Train 1 being mothballed in 2020 and 2021. Is this true, or do you have a plan as to what could be done with respect to Atlantic Train 1? You know why it's very important, the Train 1? The Train 1 is the only one, I believe, in which the government has a stake. I think it's a 10% share. The trains 2, 3, and 4, if we have any stakes in those, please tell us what are the stakes of the shareholding. Madam.
Honorable members, I have indicated before the member for Cypria has a fine voice. I would like to hear. And we have to do as we like to be done. Some of us need attention, silence in the house when we are speaking, and I hope we will do unto others as we would like done to us. Member for Cypria, please continue.
Thank you again, madam. So I'm asking, do we own any shares in trains 2, 3, and 4? I know that we own shares in Atlantic LNG Train 1, and therefore should this be mothballed, it's going to affect the dividends that we could have got from these. In the 2, 3, and 4, yes, we'll get the taxes and so on, royalties, taxes, but if we lose this Train 1, so does the government have a plan as to how to keep the Atlantic LNG Train 1 going? The Trinidad Express I just quoted from, they said it could result in the Atlantic Train 1 being mothballed. Now, NGC owns a 10% share of Train 1, and clearly future revenue and growth projections would be harmed if there is not enough gas to supply the Train 1. This is an old issue. I don't know that many people are aware that when the previous administration under the late Prime Minister Patrick Manning approved Atlantic Train 4, many senior analysts in the energy sector predicted that the gas supply shortage scenario would arise in Trinidad and Tobago. I quote from an article entitled Grave Concerns for Natural Gas Reserves, written by Kasala Kamara, published on October 18, 2006 by the Trinidad and Tobago News, and I quote, then NGC President Frank Lukin pointed out that the proposed Train 4 alone, with a gas demand of 800 mmcfd, will need 5 TCF, trillion cubic feet of gas over 20 years. Continue to quote, what this really means is that one LNG train is going to equal the gas demand of all the plants at the Point Lisa estate today. This was way back in 06. What we have here, so far back, and even as far back as 2002, there was a recognition that the known gas reserves would not be able to sustain the planned developments in the long term unless gas was discovered. This is one of the things that led us to introduce the fiscal incentives for the energy industry. And we know of those that gave us more gas supply now, still happening. I want to make it more stark, Madam, as to the dangers that were pointed out by their own experts. In 2003, Professor Ken Julian, and I quote, "When you look at the reserves picture, and the country has to look at sustainable benefits, both tangible and non-tangible, you will find out that you have committed 80% of gas reserves to one industry, ALNG. And that is the history. When we came in, we incentivized exploration activity to get more gas. Had we not intervened to incentivize companies like BP, Shell, and EOG, etc., we would not have projects like Juniper, Angela, or Sirkan. And without those projects producing gas, this country would have been in a far worse shape." In fact, in 2018, the annual economic survey, in its annual economic survey, the central bank indicated that activity in the upstream subsector was boosted by higher natural gas output, largely facilitated by the Juniper platform.
Yeah, we did it.
So today, ma'am, we expected the Honourable Minister of Finance to lay out a clear plan or speak to required adjustments for this new development, which only came to light on Friday. No mention whatsoever of this, which is a major issue now in our energy sector and in particular our gas sector. I wonder if the Minister will heed the warnings of the economists to reduce reliance on the energy industry. There's an article published in Sunday's Guardian by Rishad Khan, and I quote, Dr. Ronald Rampison said, "It is almost as if the universe is warning us that we need to do what we have been talking about, but not actually investing in, which is non-oil economic activity, cocoa, and all other products." Economist Roger Hussein noted, and I quote, "It sends a serious, sharp warning for the state to change the thinking towards how to generate economic activity in Trinidad and Tobago and to bring non-energy sector growth and more into the forefront for focus." And many others have spoken. I think the Minister referred to them as alarmists and doom and gloom and so on. Yeah. But you know, sometimes you don't kill the messenger, listen to the message and plan accordingly. Plan accordingly. Now, government may want to reconsider the reallocation of gas supply to ensure the greatest revenue and least economic loss in terms of jobs, growth, etc. for the country. Government should consider reintroducing fiscal incentives. Correct. Fiscal incentives to spur increased exploration activity. I remind you that this government has condemned us for the fiscal incentives we put in place, but we are now reaping the benefits of those. So, we can clearly say, Madam Speaker, based on the evidence before us, that this government has derailed the natural gas sector. Instead of encouraging more deep water bids, like we did, they lazily depended on the Dragon gas deal, and that is a game changer, which has been a non-starter. We must never forget the words of Robert Dudley, BP's group's CEO, in 2013, when he commented on the incentives that we had put in place. Correct. And I quote from him from the Trinidad Express, October 2nd, 2013. "The benefits of these fiscal changes have been evident in the recent successful bid runs, particularly in deep water, and we can now expect to see increased investments in exploration and development as a result of the changes announced last month. BP, we will take these changes into account. We will make changes in our investments in another part of the world. That's called the competition for capital, and that's good for Trinidad." That's good for Trinidad. So the incentives work. And then we had Norman Christie sounding a warning, September 15, 2016. I quote him in the Express, September 15, 2016. "The current gas master plan deliberations must result in clear policy decisions regarding matters such as gas allocation and price, and must incentivize upstream investments in an increasingly competitive environment. Failure to bring clarity to these matters quickly will result in a sharp decline in investments, which will lead to a repeat of the circumstances that have materially contributed to the natural gas supply and demand imbalance that we are currently experiencing. Only it will be worse. This is at September 15, 2016. In other words, the government has no plan. We are still waiting on that plan. The government has not revisited any of the legislation governing the energy sector to stimulate growth and development and create grounds for increased investment in a more stable environment. They have not accepted or actioned a single proposal from the potent and partners' natural gas master plan. You see, the international players have been discussing this, and what we are hearing is that they do not trust this government. They are afraid to commit to any further investment because they realize government is clearly out of their league in the energy sector and has no plan whatsoever. We have some questions for government in this context. Will we need to borrow more next year if Train 1 is not producing revenue? Will that financing be more expensive due to the reduced government revenues? Will the government raise taxes again to make up for lost revenue? What is the government doing to increase exploration and production? Is the government planning to dip further into the HSF to make up potential shortfall? I remind you that since December 2015, the government has been promising to amend the HSF Act. To date, they have not yet done so. And still they continue to withdraw from the fund. More importantly, can the Minister of Finance still honestly commit to the spending that he's proposing today, the additional $1.4 billion? Madam Speaker, the reality is that our economy is in crisis. The reality is that people are hurting. Life under the Rowley government is difficult, or the Prime Minister Rowley, and that is to put it very mildly. The people like Lady Rhonda, I read about I saw on the St. Street News, a single mother with children who is finding it hard to cope. There's Stephen also, carried on the news, a former Petronet employee who has not been able to get a job. This is now their 4th year in office. What have they done to improve the lives of citizens? Besides complaining and blaming me, or besides trying to mislead us with some statistics. I remember I used to teach a course at the University of the West Indies. I was a lecturer there sometime in the back. And it was language and logic. And one of the books that was on the syllabus and we had to teach the students was how to lie with statistics. And that is why I'm saying I am not going into numbers of the Minister of Finance. I am going to deal with people as a people-centered approach to governance. A month ago, Minister of Trade tried to assure us manufacturers things are looking up, recession done. What is the reality? Minister of Finance has, in effect, crushed the economy. Friday, we heard him say that he was a wizard. I have to say, for once, I agreed with him, but, you know, he waves his wand. As I said before, jobs disappear, Forex disappears, foreign direct investment disappears, and he's making money disappear from your wallet because it's tax upon tax upon tax. And this narrative of turnaround and stabilization, they painted a completely opposite picture, really. Friday, the minister claimed that the growth in assets in Republic Bank and First Citizens Bank meant that there was no capital flight occurring in TNT. Today, he mentioned again how the profits of the banks and so on. This is a kind of smoke and mirrors, in my respectful view, from the wizard himself. This government has borrowed, continues to borrow heavily from these very banks. These borrowings will be registered as assets. Therefore, this cannot be a realistic measure of capital flight. That is just not the case. Minister talked about increasing credit, but again, because businesses and people have been borrowing just to stay afloat, not to invest. It's not about investment. So when you talk about banks, profits, and increasing in banking and so on, think on the other side. This has nothing to do with capital flight, nothing at all. So you see, it's not the average citizen and small businesses engaging in capital flight, madam. They are barely surviving. Take a look at who is getting the mega contracts from this government, the businesses which they have been boosting. How much foreign direct investment has TT attracted? That is another key indicator of confidence in the economy. Again, government speaks about banking and all the other things that have been increasing. What was it? Local banks, unprecedented growth and profits. Insurance, of course. Consumer credit. Rental, retail prices and so on. I wonder when last some of you went to the supermarket and checked the prices now as they were compared to 2015 and a few years ago. And the government is now doing something I think that's very frightening. They're trying to convince us that reputable international organizations are the ones telling untruths, fake news coming from international organization. Let me give you an example, madam. In this very house last week, the Minister of Finance declared in the first quarter of 2018, the economy grew by 9%. In the second quarter 2018, the economy grew by 2.1%. In the third quarter, the economy grew by 1.5%. If we were to consider the quarterly index of economic activity, which was previously used by the CBTT as their measure of quarterly growth, the overall economy shows growth for the first 2 quarters of 2018, 3.1 and 3, but it is in fact in the negative in the third quarter, minus 1.9. That is on the central bank's website now. You can check it yourself, and it is not it doesn't suit the Nancy story that we are being bullied into believing. The stats provided by the central bank, are they wrong? I would like you to tell us. Or is it that the minister waved his magic wand and the facts were replaced by this fiction? Madam Speaker, I want to spend a little time. I have a lot more to talk, but I'll leave it to my colleagues. But I do want to say that we have a plan. Since we have gone out of office, we've learned from some of the mistakes we made, and we have been working assiduously. And I would like to share some of it with you. Madam Speaker, this is our National Economic Transformation Master Plan 2020-2025. So we will not just stand here and complain. We have a plan, we've developed a plan. And I had said before that we intend to create 50,000 jobs. And people, oh, wow, how are you going to do that? How are you going to create these 50,000? I said, we did it before, and we can do it again. In our last 5 years, we did create over 55,000 new jobs. We did that without a single new tax. We generated the highest gross domestic product in the country. Yes? We had the second highest levels of revenue in the country. And so we had the highest foreign direct investment. And yes, Prime Minister, through you, madam, we will tell you where the 100 schools are. My minister has a list of the 100 schools and more. So I will leave that for the former Minister of Education. This is what we have in this master plan, madam. Our National Economic Transformation Master Plan 2020-25 lays out a wide-ranging suite of policy initiatives and programs which we will pursue to get people working again and working towards a better future. We will create 50,000 new jobs. Our plan benefits from insightful views and informing consultations with key stakeholders and experts, and is aligned to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which the international community endorsed as a policy framework for a world free of poverty. Diversification is at the heart of our economic master plan. Thank you. Thank you, AG, for taking my time. Diversification is at the heart of our economic master plan. Yes, we will remain we will pin the energy sector to our chest, madam. Yes, because it's very important. We'll pin it onto our chest.
Honourable Member for Superior, your original 30 minutes are now spent. You're entitled to 15 more minutes to complete your presentation, if you wish.
The idea for next chapter. Thank you very much, madam. Yes, so we will continue incentives and find ways to deepen exploration and
excuse me, madam.
in the energy sector. Diversification will be at the heart of this plan. For too long, our economic fortunes have been too closely linked to the energy sector, so that we are always at the beck and call, the vagaries of output shocks and price shocks. Where the price goes up, we boom and we're happy, it drops and we are where we are now. And the same thing with the output shocks, Madam Speaker. So we will encourage strategic investments in niche non-energy sectors where we have strong competitive advantage, market opportunity, and growth potential. These bold steps must be made now We will, of course, not ignore the energy sector, as I said before. Our plan embodies a business unusual spirit. The private sector is being called forth to take the lead in strategic projects, while government will play a facilitative role. Of the many interventions, we have identified and singled out 12 prosperity engines spread across communities in Trinidad and Tobago. These prosperity engines will mobilize and engage the private sector, both local and international. And their implementation will have large positive multiplier effects in kickstarting the economic recovery, fostering growth, and supporting diversification. We recognize the road ahead will not always be smooth. We have to treat with a rapidly aging population, unacceptably high crime, and many national institutions in need of transformation. Climate change is already a clear and present danger to our small island developing state and our Caribbean neighbors. We face a slowing global economy and escalating trade tensions. Geopolitical competition among major superpowers is becoming fiercer. Unconventional sources of oil and natural gas, alternative sources of energy, are disrupting global energy markets. The digital revolution, particularly artificial intelligence and increased automation, presents for us great promise and as well great peril. All these challenges will bring opportunities to break away from outmoded approaches and to venture boldly in a new direction. I am confident that we will be able to achieve these. And the 12 the prosperity engines that we have identified to create these 50,000 new jobs, doubling non-energy exports, and these engines are as follows. What time I have on 33?
Yeah, 3:20. Don't tell them, you know.
3:30, sir.
Don't tell them. They're marking down.
You know, if we tell them we cannot implement it, they will not be able to implement it. So they will not be able to implement it. So we will deal with agriculture and agro-processing. We will deal with Tobago's first locally branded hotel, Plymouth International Cruise Ship Marina Complex, Point Galeota Energy Logistics Hub, Cedars Aruba Southwest Peninsula Economic Zone, Piarco Aircraft Maintenance Repair and Operations Hub, East Port of Spain Steel Pan Manufacturing Facility, West Port of Spain Trini Creative Arts Area, Tamana Solar Tech, Renewable Energy Park, Digital Innovation Park, East-West Biotechnology Manufacturing Park. These are some of the projects that we have identified. And in this plan, we have built the plan on 5 interconnected guiding principles which constitute the cornerstones of our strategy for recovery, sustainable growth, and diversification of the TNT economy. Principle 1, people-centered development. Getting people back to work. Principle 2, pro-business. Allow the private sector to drive growth and development. Principle 3, resilience. Deepen economic reforms, but with a human face. Principle 4, local content. Give people a sense of ownership and independence. And principle 5, sustainability. Promoting environmental stewardship. Madam Speaker, we will roll out these plans. We will roll out these plans. We will roll out these plans for the general public.
Member, 1 second.
I'm sorry, sir.
Member for Naparima, I think the speaker already spoke about the chorus. Please, we would maintain. Proceed. Proceed, Superior.
Thank you very much, sir. We will roll out these plans as in the weeks and months ahead, as we count down to election, whichever one, whenever they are called. We will share these ideas with the public. So we did not just come here today, sir, Madam, Mr. Speaker, to say we do not agree with the plans and policies of the government. We believe that they failed the economy as they failed the country. And that is not sufficient. We are saying that we have plans and projects, policy initiatives as we go forward. In the few minutes I have left, I will attempt to I just want to raise one specific matter, and it has to do with something I mentioned earlier about the IDF. Now, as long as I've been in Parliament, I have never known that you can come with a variation bill, a supplementation bill, which is what we have before us today, to supplement Budget 2019 by increasing it by $1.4 billion. Where within what you gave us in the Standing Finance Committee with respect to the Infrastructure Development Fund, and that fund is established under Section 43(2) of the Exchequer and Audit Act, Chapter 6902. And the minister said, look, I want $709 million more because I want to replace money taken out of the IDF to exit Petrotrin. Okay? He said his purpose was to replenish the IDF, and funds had been transferred from this fund to finance exit costs associated with Petrotrin. Now, this entire issue of Petrotrin remains a matter which we believe requires a comprehensive forensic investigation to start with. The secretive and hasty manner in which it was done constitutes, in the eyes of some, a criminal act against workers and entire communities. The resultant cover-up of billions in corruption spent on the World GTL project and the USC plans, the protection of friends of this government, and others engaged in activities, but this is not limited just to the fake oil scam. It's not only that. They appear to have robbed the company of hundreds of millions in revenues, compounded by the fact that the whistleblowers, those who dared to stand up to protect the public purse and the company for which they work, they were unceremoniously fired, all gone. Close to half of the amount of the money asked for, the minister told us, was the firing of Petrotrin workers, which, if the minister is to be believed, was not budgeted in the 2019 budget. So they never anticipated that they would need this money when they said Petrotrin was shutting down. And that is a very scary matter. So the hatchet man woke up one morning, he decided 5,000 plus direct employees, another 5,000 indirect workers associated with Petrotrin, gone. In October 2018, during the budget debate, neither the Minister of Finance, neither the Minister of Energy or of Finance spoke to the shutdown of Petrotrin. It appears that the urgency of shutting down Petrotrin and firing all was a priority for the government. Minister of Finance refused to provide explanations and answers to questions asked by members of Parliament. Instead of on the meeting of the Standing Finance Committee, when asked about how much money to provide information to the country, Minister did not explain the details surrounding the use of the $709 million of taxpayers' dollars taken from the IDF to exit Petrotrin. Did not. I have read the verbatim notes of that committee meeting. I have read the verbatim. Minister did not say. I wonder, for as long as I've been in Parliament now, I'm saying the use of funding between heads requires a variation. Yeah, a variation initially, which must be brought to and approved by the Parliament. So the Minister is bringing only a supplementary bill, but he has not given us anything in the law for Parliament to approve this $709 million from head IDF, from the head IDF, which is a separate head in the budget, to go now, where? To Ministry of Energy for the exit cost, because Petrotrin falls under them, to go to where? Ministry of Finance, because Corporation Sole may be making those payments. And I do believe that this transfer from the IDF is not being dealt with as provided for in the law. We should have had a variation bill as well as a supplementation. As has been done in the past, they come together as a variation and supplementation. I'd be happy if the minister can explain. Now, I know if it is within a head, if it's in the same head, IDF head, if it's a construction of this, construction of that, within the same head, the Minister of Finance has the authority to sign it within a head. But what we're having here is a transfer from one head to the next, and I'm asking the Minister, is that being done legally? As I close, Madam Speaker, I say last year, I told the House that the economy was sick, that the economy was on life support. Today, the economy is dead because of the actions and inactions of this government. Today, the government is engaged in a futile exercise to try to resuscitate the dead economy. All these massive borrowings, debt to GDP ratio easily moving from 62% to 70%. This supplementation is like the installation of a pacemaker after the heart has stopped beating. It will take more than a wizard to perform the magic and the miracle. I tell you, Madam Speaker, it will take a new government to sustain this country. The Prime Minister tells us to pray for oil. The Minister of Public Utilities tells us do what? Pray for rain. The population says we pray for a new government. Madam Speaker, thank you.
Member for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I am saddened as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago and as a representative of part of the capital of Trinidad and Tobago, Port of Spain North, to hear the contribution of a former Prime Minister here today telling the community that an economy is dead to start with. That is certainly the furthest thing from the truth, and it is very disgraceful, in my respectful opinion, Madam Speaker, for a former Prime Minister to paint the economy of Trinidad and Tobago as being dead. What was even more embarrassing, Madam Speaker, was to hear a former Prime Minister for 5 years and 3 months who always likes to boast about what they did in the energy sector, ask the country whether the only shareholding Trinidad and Tobago has in Atlantic LNG was in Train 1. Madam Speaker, and I hear Doppy, sorry, the Member of Parliament for Naparima. The Member of Parliament for Naparima.
Why is a little boy?
Member for St. Anne's West, Port of Spain North, I realize you are also developing a penchant for creating excitement. Okay, so I hope you will withdraw, stand up and withdraw.
I withdraw that, Madam Speaker. I was referring to the Member of Parliament for Naparima.
All right, and Member for Naparima, sometimes even as you may feel the need to object, I hope you do it in a way consistent with the standing orders. Okay?
Thank you very much. Madam Speaker, as I was telling the national community, to have a former Prime Minister who should have chaired an Energy Standing Committee, and unfortunately that Energy Standing Committee's minutes reflect that she never chaired the Energy Standing Committee for 5 years and 3 months. And the Energy Standing Committee, for those members of Trinidad and Tobago, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to know, is the body, the sub-cabinet committee that governs the policy and also shepherds everything in the energy sector from a government point of view. So it is, I guess, not surprising to have the former Prime Minister ask the country whether the only shareholding it has in the whole Atlantic Train 1, 2, and 3, and 4 was in Train 1. So I will respond to that. The people of Trinidad and Tobago, through the National Gas Company, have a 10% shareholding in Train 1. We also have an 11.11% shareholding in Train 4. So for the whole UNC bench not to know what is the shareholding in one of the most important investments in the energy sector in Trinidad and Tobago, it is very shameful. And she's now, the Member of Parliament for Siparia is now asking, what about 2 and 3? Member of Siparia, the former Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago has unfortunately no shareholding in Trains 2 and 3 of Atlantic LNG. Actually, a UNC government. So, Madam Speaker, now to deal with some of the fiction with respect to the energy sector, I'd like to remind the population that when we came in as an administration, the gas sector was in complete shambles and disarray. Madam Speaker, I was reminding the Honorable Prime Minister today that one of the first things we faced as an administration apart from the CGCL debacle, which I'll come to in a short while, was we were immediately faced by NGC coming to us and telling us that Shell had dropped off the provision of 220 million scuffs of gas a day to the downstream, to NGC for a downstream hydrocarbon sector. The first question, because they simply did not have the gas out of what happened with Dolphin and Starfish. What immediately then happened is we asked, well, okay, well, what are the penalties for Shell to pay to Trinidad and Tobago? We were told the contract had no penalties. So we said, okay. We were then doing an assessment, and NGC said, by the way, there were billions of dollars in claims which arose during the period that the UNC was in charge, 2010 to 2015, for gas curtailment to the downstream sector, to ammonia, urea, and all of these downstream sectors at Point Lisas. So we said, what do you mean there are billions of dollars of claims? NGC then said, when there was new management in NGC, those who were there under the UNC having departed, they said there were serious curtailments from 2011 all the way through to 2015. We said, but we asked that question in Parliament. The then Minister of Energy, under the UNC-led administration, said it was maintenance. They said, absolutely not. What Kevin Ramnarine told the population was untrue. Madam Speaker, when we came in as an administration, we met billions of dollars in claims from the downstream and serious gas curtailment in the upstream. I want to remind the population that that is what happened, combined and coupled with a UNC government that withdrew $14 to $16 billion in cash from the same NGC during that period. So it meant that NGC itself could not even take cash now and invest into the energy sector, into the gas sector, to help itself out of this very deep hole. Now to CGCL, Madam Speaker, lest the country forget what happened under the government led by the member for Siparia. CGCL is a conglomeration between Massey, NGC, and the Mitsubishi Group out of Japan. Immediately upon coming into office, they approached the Office of the Attorney General, saying you have to sign off. You have to sign off, Attorney General. We then took a look at the file as to what had to be signed off. In red ink, from the Solicitor General on the 7th of September, the last working day. No, the 7th of September was the election. So it was on the 5th of September, the last working day of before the elections, the Friday before. The public servants at the Office of the Attorney General put in red ink in writing on a file to the then Attorney General, who was pressuring them to permit him to sign off the opinion to consummate the deal, that they did not agree with what had been negotiated. When we started to explore it, Madam Speaker, for the people of Trinidad and Tobago to know what was the energy policy of those on the other side during the period 2010 to 2015, they talk about secrecy, they talk about a lack of transparency, Madam Speaker. They passed a policy called a greenfield gas policy. And what that meant is they would take the limited gas, because by then they knew there were curtailments of gas and a shortage of gas. They would take the limited gas and give it to the newer plants. So the plants in Point Lisas that were there for an extended period of time, that had invested in the country over decades, that had stood with us, would have no gas. So in other words, take the limited gas, give it to the newer plants, to the CGCL, and then forget the others. Immediately, from a legal perspective, and remember there were two self-appointed silk in that cabinet. From a legal perspective, Madam Speaker, it opened us up as a country to claims. It opened us up as a country to billions of dollars in claims and a constitutional argument of discrimination. So what did we have to do? Immediately, an Energy Standing Committee that was being chaired by the member for Diego Martin West, that was sitting on a regular basis, got together and took a decision to reverse that policy, that no one in the country, apart from those to benefit and those that passed the policy, knew about. The rest of the industry, those at Point Lisas, had been hearing about it. They didn't even have the courtesy to tell them. I suspect that is because they knew immediately they would be able to go to court and have that policy overturned. We as an administration took two decisions. Overturn the policy, even though there was a contract executed with CGCL and the government of Japan through the JBIC Bank, and then go and renegotiate the terms of the contract. Another thing you hear constantly sung from the other side, Madam Speaker, is the collapse of the energy industry, and I'll come to that when we had the energy spotlight. And everything we do is going to run foreign direct investment. Completely untrue. The Prime Minister set a small team up, being guided at every step of the way by the Energy Standing Committee. We went off to Japan. We sat down opposite the government of Japan in 2 days, and we renegotiated with the government of Japan to the benefit of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and extricated us. Took us outside of that sphere, that whole specter of liability that they had dug a deep hole for Trinidad and Tobago in. The government of Japan said, but this is a contract that is binding. Don't you respect sanctity of contract? And you said, with the greatest of respect, we do. But we as a sovereign government have a right to protect the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and this is how we will do it. So we are asking that you either reverse it or we go to arbitration. And thankfully, the government of Japan agreed with us. We were able to renegotiate it and extricate the people of Trinidad and Tobago from billions of dollars in claims and the potential loss of thousands of jobs at the Point Lisas estate. That is what this administration did in the first 6 months, based on their energy sector proposals and their energy sector policies, Madam Speaker. The next thing we had to set about doing was negotiating a way and dealing with the billions of dollars of remaining claims as a result of the curtailments, Madam Speaker. And we successfully sat down and did that over time by working hard. But we couldn't wait there, because what we also found out, Madam Speaker, when we came in, is those who profess and tell the country how they know what to do with energy, they did absolutely nothing to renegotiate or to negotiate any new gas supply contracts from upstream. No new contract with EOG, no new contract with Shell, no new contract with BP. In fact, the audacity of those on the other side to talk about meetings with Bob Dudley and speaking to BP in London. I'll have the country remember the embarrassment we face as a country here today, that the Prime Minister at the time could not even make it to BP's office in London for the meeting.
They're still talking about that.
Right? And they could not even make it to the office of BP in London for that important meeting. But yet still they have the audacity, the hypocrisy to criticize those on this side who immediately, under the leadership of the Prime Minister, leading the team, took it upon ourselves that we had to secure gas contracts from upstream BP, Shell, EOG for the future of the gas industry of Trinidad and Tobago. And that is what we did. So not a single contract negotiated by the UNC between 2010 and 2015 upstream, not a single contract negotiated apart from the CGCL deal for downstream and for the future supply of gas downstream. In fact, they left us with a number of arbitration claims hanging over our head. The only contract, Madam Speaker, that they negotiated on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago in the energy sector during that period of time was the CGCL contract that I've just spoken about, that put us potentially in a further sets of billions of dollars of claims. I hear them talking about Juniper. Juniper is not a contract that is negotiated, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, what Juniper is an investment by an upstream company to go after gas in a gas field. Madam Speaker, the next thing that a lot of time was spent on today, and it is a continuation, Madam Speaker, with the greatest of respect, and I'm asking that the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago take note, because the continued fear-mongering, the continued misrepresentation of the truth, or the complete averment to truth whatsoever is very disturbing. and to hear that by seasoned politicians. I have only been in this parliament for 4 years, and I sit here sometimes, Madam Speaker, and wonder, those who have been here for decades, how can they stand up day after day and attempt to mislead the population of Trinidad and Tobago? So let's start with what they've discussed.
48.6.
Member, just withdraw and restate what you're saying, please.
Madam Speaker.
The misleading.
But Madam Speaker, they are misleading the people. Madam Speaker, I withdraw the use of the word misleading. Madam Speaker, to stand here every week, as I'm about to say, this week, just today, to hear what is being said with respect to the recent news from BP. Every national of Trinidad and Tobago who is a patriot and who cares about Trinidad and Tobago is looking on with concern, Madam Speaker. And we hear them come today and try to raise a whole set of issues. I will get to national security, don't worry about that. So, Madam Speaker, to stand here today and hear the misrepresentation of what actually happened. So let me tell you what has happened, Madam Speaker. BP has not had 4 dry wells. What happened is in Cannonball last year, they were drilling in Cannonball last year. In December 2018, the first well that they were drilling, Immortel, encountered a mechanical integrity issue. And as a result of that, they had to drill a second one into sand. And that was the well that's found to be wet and that there will be no production from. In Easter of this year, they then drilled 2 in Kashima. And the well in Kashima is not a dry well. The well in Kashima at this point in time appears to have less than they thought. They were going for 100 million scuffs. They've hit 50 million scuffs. So what they are looking to do right now is re-evaluate. Let me explain to the country with the greatest respect, Madam Speaker, about Train 1. The Train 1 contracts expired in April 2019. The responsible government started, there was an appointment by the Cabinet of an empowered negotiation team. For the first time in the history of government negotiations in Trinidad and Tobago in the energy sector, we went out, we brought in the best-in-class international law firm of White & Case to be part of the team. We joined with Porton and Partners. We put together a team of Wendell Motley, Mark Loquan, Frank Lukin, Leroy Myers, Richard Jeremy, Minister Khan and myself to negotiate on behalf of Trinidad and Tobago with Shell and BP to get better revenue for Trinidad and Tobago. You know what one of them told me this week, Madam Speaker? They said these are the most difficult negotiations they've ever had with a government, and they actually laughed at the period under the UNC in the 1995 to 2000, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, what they said is the Minister of Energy during that period of time did not even turn up to negotiations. It was a low-level advisor, and they said that they ran rings around them, and that is why we have the type of energy contracts in this country as a people that we face now, because there was absolutely no attention paid to it by the first UNC government. I've just explained that there was no attention paid to the energy sector by the second UNC government, and it falls now on this administration who has taken up that mantle to reset it and to get better terms for Trinidad and Tobago, and that is what we are doing. So, Madam Speaker, with Train 1, we sat down, we had the hard negotiations with BP and Shell. We renegotiated a formula, an enhanced revenue formula for the people of Trinidad and Tobago for Train 1. That if half of the amount of gas goes through Train 1 that can go through, it will result in an enhanced revenue on an annual basis, conservatively, of an extra $230 million a year for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. That is what this government did. So yes, obviously, this government now is going to look at what happens with Train 1. This government plays no rejoicing, is not happy about any setback whatsoever in the energy sector. But this government is not going to just roll over. We are working hard at it. We're continuing our negotiations with Shell, and we are very close to tying up those negotiations with Shell, and I am certain within the next couple of weeks, the Minister of Energy would be able to announce to Trinidad and Tobago what this government has done on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago to enhance revenue out of the energy sector. Madam Speaker, I also heard another misrepresentation of the facts to the people, saying that under this government there's been no FDI, foreign direct investment, by the energy companies in Trinidad and Tobago. Madam Speaker, I remind the population of Trinidad and Tobago, upon the Prime Minister's return from Houston, it was announced between BP and Shell that they were going to invest in the next 5-year period over $10 billion in Trinidad and Tobago. And that was done by the discussions that took place and the finalization of the terms that took place in Houston in that year of 2017. Madam Speaker, the population needs to know that the shareholding for Train 1 is as follows. NGC owns on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago 10%. CIC, which is the largest sovereign wealth fund of the People's Republic of China. Madam Speaker, if you Google it, it is the 3rd largest sovereign wealth fund in the world. I think only Norway and one other is ahead of it. So the largest Chinese sovereign wealth fund has seen it fit to invest in Trinidad and Tobago. What have we done? We have nurtured that relationship. So I have heard those and the negativity on the other side, including Mariano Brown asking what it is we went to China to sign. He is on your side.
He is on your side.
So, Madam Speaker, I want to tell the people of Trinidad and Tobago that what they saw being signed by NGC in China a couple weeks ago, Madam Speaker, is for the benefit of the people.
I would like to hear the proceedings of the Parliament, please, and the constant murmuring on the other side is disturbing me. I would like to hear it, Madam Speaker.
Honourable members, as I indicated, some of us create excitement, but anybody who wants to speak will be allowed in the proper time to speak. Okay, so if we will comply by Standing Order 53. Member for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the relationship with CIC, the largest sovereign wealth fund of China, the deal that was signed between NGC and a subsidiary of NGC and a subsidiary of CIC is for NGC's subsidiary to have the rights to market whatever cargoes CIC gets out of Atlantic LNG along with its own cargoes. Madam Speaker, for those who don't pay attention and those who may not know better, that achievement and that milestone of Trinidad and Tobago being allowed the opportunity to go out and market LNG to the largest purchaser of LNG in the world, China. China is now the largest LNG importer, user in the world, with a growing market as it tries to reduce its reliance on coal. And for small Trinidad and Tobago to get into an arrangement with them that we can join together to market LNG cargoes is a tremendous achievement. And I thank those who were involved in negotiating that agreement on behalf of Trinidad and Tobago. What we're continuing to do is we're going to enter into discussions, Madam Speaker, now with BP and Shell, called black box conversations and discussions with respect to trains 2, 3, and 4, as this government and this administration continues to strive along with its advisors to get the best possible returns to Trinidad and Tobago for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Madam Speaker, this is just a little bit of what has been happening in the energy sector under this administration, because when we came in, we met it in a complete disaster, we met it in complete disarray, we met a complete crisis situation taking place in the energy sector. It is finally stable. We have also been settling claims. When the negotiations were taking place with CNC last year, Madam Speaker, and the government had the backbone and the wherewithal in difficult negotiations to stand up when CNC took a decision to shut its plant and to try and put the political pressure on the government of loss of jobs. And all of a sudden, the amount of jobs at CNC spiraled upwards, went upwards, elevated numbers. And the government stood strong. Those on the other side said, disaster. You would run all of the foreign investment from Trinidad and Tobago. We stood strong. We negotiated well. We negotiated hard. We got terms that were mutually beneficial to both parties. That's NGC as well as CNC. The plant is operating and it is producing and it is exporting its product. No disaster. And what we were able to do in that instance, Madam Speaker, is set the tone and the precedent for the negotiations and discussions with the downstream. Shortly thereafter, there was also settlement of the single largest downstreamer on Point Lisas, Nutrien, formerly PCS Nitrogen. We finally settled those.
Standing Order 53-1 E, F, and G, please.
Okay, so, honorable members, again, I just want to caution. Everybody will have an opportunity to speak in this debate at the appropriate time. I'll ask us all to desist from running commentaries and in cases where we have to speak, to keep our volumes low. Member for Port of Spain, North St. Anne's.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, this is a short report to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago as to what exactly has been going on in the energy sector. It is a factual report because you see, Madam Speaker, again, a former prime minister, and one would think that when you reach that pinnacle of being the prime minister in politics, you would always have some sort of protection over Trinidad and Tobago. You'd want what's best for Trinidad and Tobago. I don't see that happening here by the former prime minister. Instead, Madam Speaker, what happens?
Standing Order 48-4.
Member for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, a couple disturbing statements were made by the Speaker before me. What I've just done is explain in the shortest possible form what has taken place from September 2015 to now in the energy sector. None of it was easy. All of it required leadership. It required fortitude, it required confidence, and it required a level of patriotism to make the difficult decisions, to stand up in the boardrooms around the world against these multinationals, these billion-dollar multinationals, and tell them, no, we are fighting for Trinidad and Tobago. And if you want to take up and go, that is your choice. We're not asking you to do that. Work with us, because our shareholders, and the Prime Minister have witnessed him say it in every single boardroom we've been to. His shareholders are the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and those are the people that we account to. And I tell the people here today without fear of contradiction that every decision we've taken in the energy sector has been to the benefit of Trinidad and Tobago. Another one I heard them talk about, Madam Speaker, was World GTL, and talk about the cover-up of World GTL. Madam Speaker, I'd like the population of Trinidad and Tobago know. Madam Speaker, I'd like the population of Trinidad and Tobago to know that the deal, the NIQUAN deal for World GTL was a UNC deal. That was conceptualized under them. They as a cabinet took that decision to send it there. They are the ones who set the terms of the deal. And it was this government that came in, Madam Speaker.
Please continue.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, those were decisions taken in 2014. Those were decisions taken in 2014. It even ended up in court with respect to what they were doing. They never told the country that. They talk about secrecy, they talk about transparency. This country knew nothing of what was going on in the energy sector. Did the country know that they took $1 billion in cash out of NGC to spend on a Beetham wastewater. They only knew that because the opposition, this opposition, then told them that. 16 billion, same story over and over. They have never accounted to the people for the recreation grounds and the inflated contracts that they use NGC to do. Everybody who is driving to and from San Fernando, or from the south of Trinidad to the north of Trinidad, and from the north back down to the south, as you pass that, the Couva flyover by Presal there, look and see what they spent $30 million of taxpayers down money on with a company, SIS, to build this thing, and no use for it whatsoever. None whatsoever. And that is what they did in the energy sector. Not a single gas deal negotiated and signed, upstream, downstream, no extension of gas sale contracts. Another point that was made, Madam Speaker, that I want to focus, take a highlighter and highlight, made for the former contract.
Member for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West, your original 30 minutes are now spent. You're entitled to 15 more minutes to wrap up your presentation, if you wish. You may proceed.
Much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want the population to mark here today, on the 13th of May, 2019, a statement that was made by the former Prime Minister. She told us that she used to teach a class, the member for Siparia told us she used to teach a class on statistics. And she said, the member for Siparia said as follows: I used to teach a course on how to lie with statistics. That is what was said, the Hansard would represent it, right? So, Madam Speaker, another thing that was said by the former Speaker, and by the former Prime Minister, and I cringed when I heard it, in reference to Petrotrin, talking about whistleblowing in Petrotrin and the protection of whistleblowers from Petrotrin. First of all, I don't accept there's any truth to that whatsoever. But the hypocrisy of the opposition that voted down legislation to protect whistleblowers, and then to come here and talk about wanting to protect whistleblowers. To also hear here today, Madam Speaker, a former Prime Minister who would love to lead this country again, ask what is a tax amnesty, and to ask if it means, Madam Speaker, for 3 months not to pay tax. The most ridiculous proposition I have ever heard since sitting in Parliament. They had 3 tax amnesties, Madam Speaker, under the former administration. So let me explain to the people, lest they be misled once again. The tax and confused, Madam Speaker, the tax amnesty that is coming, based on what the Minister of Finance has just said, is for those who have failed to pay their VAT, to pay their PAYE, to pay all their tax, all taxes. Come forward and pay it within that 3-month period, and you will have no penalties. You'll have no interest attached to it. Clean your slate. Pay the tax you need to pay. It doesn't need explanation, Madam Speaker. Everybody knows what a tax amnesty is.
Illiterate wouldn't know that.
Madam Speaker, the other most ridiculous proposition.
Okay, members, please settle down.
Very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I was also shocked at another proposition I heard, and I had to turn to the member for Diego Martin, Northeast, and ask him if I heard correctly. When there was a suggestion that there's secrecy and no explanation to the population with respect to the $709 million for Petrotrin. Madam Speaker, that was gone through right here in this chamber last week at the Standing Finance Committee. That resulted in this thick report that members should have and should have been provided with, or would have on the iPad that they've been provided with by Parliament on Rotunda. And it says in here, it also says in the law, but no, when we went through the debate, it was explained what the $709 million. So again, to make a suggestion that the Minister of Finance is somehow spurious, taking money, shuffling money without accounting to the population, again, completely untrue. Madam Speaker, as the Minister of National Security, I'd spend some time on that. Madam Speaker, the Ministry of National Security has been utilizing the multi-agency approach. The Ministry of National, and it was this administration, I remind the population, because when they were asking, do you feel safer, do you this, do you that, I remind the population that when the former administration got rid of the last permanent commissioner of police, they did not reappoint a commissioner of police. In fact, their then Attorney General told the population the best way to get a commissioner of police to perform, or anyone to perform, is keep them acting. And they stretched it. It is this administration that took a decision and in August of last year appointed a permanent commissioner of police. And Madam Speaker, the population would agree that the commissioner of police's appointment has brought a breath of fresh air throughout crime fighting in Trinidad and Tobago. And it is this parliament, this side of the parliament, this government, that the population can thank for that. In fact, we sat here and watched those on the other side who served with Mr. Griffith as an advisor to the Prime Minister, her national security advisor to the Prime Minister. She's now saying he's a good minister, but she did not tell her bench, to vote in favor of Mr. Griffith as the Commissioner of Police. So, Madam Speaker, that is one of the things. On a weekly basis, Madam Speaker, I account to the people of Trinidad and Tobago as to what is going on in national security. They're very aware of all that has been going on in national security, right? Madam Speaker, I don't talk about the statistics with the murder rate, etc. That's for the Commissioner of Police and his men and women to do. But I will say, Madam Speaker, it is actually down. It is actually down. Madam Speaker, again, the multi-agency efforts. I stand here today as the Minister of National Security and once again thank the men and women in the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, the police force, the immigration, our lifeguards, customs and excise, the intelligence services, probation officers, prison officers, all of those who are working tirelessly and without sleep on a 24/7 basis to make Trinidad and Tobago a safe and more secure place, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is very disturbing to have sat here today and heard the utterances, the attacks on the energy sector, the utterances, the continued spread of misinformation, the attempts to create fear and panic. I can assure the people of Trinidad and Tobago, Madam Speaker, that what this administration has done since September 2015 for the energy sector, I can tell you what we haven't done. We haven't stolen from the Treasury. There's been no looting from the Treasury. There's no Beetham wastewater plant, Madam Speaker. There's no 1.4 billion in legal fees, Madam Speaker. There is no borrowing of $400 million a month before elections and a former minister saying where that money should go. None of that has taken place under this administration. So, Madam Speaker, hopefully the population has a better understanding of what has happened and what is taking place in the energy sector. We will continue to work hard. We hope to be able to come in the next 2 weeks and make some announcements out of our negotiations with Shell. To the constituents of Port of Spain, North St. Anne's West, I thank you for the opportunity to continue to serve you. We are there on the ground. There have been improvements, for example, at HARP. We have playgrounds throughout the constituency now. I thank the Minister of Housing for his assistance with the HCC projects. I thank my other colleagues, the Minister of Works and Transport, who helped us pave the basketball court in the HARP place recent times. Madam Speaker, there is a lot going on. There's a lot of positive in Trinidad and Tobago going on. I ask the people of Trinidad and Tobago to ignore the falsities, to ignore the fake cries, to ignore all of those suggestions by those on the other side that the economy is dead and the economy is failed. To the contrary, as we heard from the Member of Parliament for Diego Martin Northeast, using statistics, notice, not a single statistics from the person who said she used to teach statistics was used, Madam Speaker, to back up a contribution and a submission with respect to the economy. On the contrary, what has happened, the IMF has said there's growth, the World Bank has said there's growth. They've attacked on the last occasion the governor of central bank and the central bank, saying, challenging his independence. Again, hypocritical to hear from those who appointed the only governor of central bank who has ever had to be removed from office. And removed from office. Yes, removed by us for misbehavior in office. Madam Speaker, I thank the people of Trinidad and Tobago for all that they've done and for standing by this government as we stabilize the economy and as we will continue to do so on their behalves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and it's a pleasure to join the debate at this time on a very important and critical matter before us. Madam Speaker, if an observer who understands the English language was listening or watching this debate for the last 40 minutes or so, the observer from wherever in the world who would understand English would never have thought that the member for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West is indeed the Minister of National Security of this country. But Madam Speaker, worse than that, Senator the Honorable Franklin Khan would not have thought that he's the Minister of National Security.
Energy.
No, Mr. Khan would not know he's the Minister of National Security. Because Mr. Khan is the Minister of Energy. Madam Speaker, now we know why the murder rate is climbing rapidly and there's widespread insecurity. Now we know why we could not protect the borders in the southwest of this country. Now we know why the commissioner always complains about a lack of capital investment in policing. Now we know why, Madam Speaker, in this country today it is gripped by fear, lawlessness. Because the Minister of National Security has a childish preoccupation with energy matters and is a traveling partner of the Prime Minister all over the globe dealing with energy matters, and that is why we are in this state of crisis in the energy sector as well. I remember, Madam Speaker, asking the government, when you went to Houston, did you take the PS, did you take legal representatives of the Ministry of Energy? If tonight this government disappear, another government comes, nobody would know what they negotiate in Houston. Nobody would know what gas price they arrived at. They have this morbid tendency to travel alone without technocratic persons and legal representatives and make deals all over the place. And we hear it when they come back here and we ask a question, we will get a little percentage of it. Madam Speaker, that is a dangerous development. And I will address national security in a few minutes because somebody needs to. Because just somebody needs to. Madam Speaker, there's a provision here for CCTV cameras. The minister said nothing. But man didn't say boo about CCTV cameras that you come here for millions of dollars. But telling us about Japan and Houston. I noticed the minister was very silent with that dragon gas deal. I noticed he was very silent with sandals. All I could say is all the negotiation you're going to embark on, member for Port of Spain North, I hope it is more successful than dragon gas and sandals. I hope it's more successful. Madam Speaker, today the Minister of Finance gave us a presentation that should have begun with once upon a time. Madam Speaker, it was a story where, and I don't bring personal business here, but every night, when I'm home, I have to read a story to my small son. And we would read the same story sometimes. He wants to hear this story, but it's the same story. So I would sit down, I'd lie down, and I'd read the story. And he would be happy, he would go to sleep a few minutes after. Madam Speaker, it's the same story I'm reading 20 times. Madam Speaker, this fairy tale is like Peter Pan or turtle hatching or something like that. It is the same story we are hearing all the time. The minister come, Labre dry dock. Then he would come again, hospitals. The hospitals that should have opened in January 2019, he said, well, that's coming soon. That opening just now. The Cuba Hospital will be operational. That coming too. The Point 14 Hospital, well, that coming too. The Sandy Grande. Then, or every, like 2 or 3 times a year, the Toko Highway coming just now, the interchange, which today the minister confessed they have not even completed settlement for those lands. They boast about a highway we started. They got back $1 billion from OS. It is because of the contractual arrangements by the member for Tabakit that allowed that to happen. Today, they are going to build a highway. Madam Speaker, today they are going to build a highway with a missing part. They're going to build us a highway with a missing part. The older people here, I don't want to say older, but some of us who have been around, you all remember you used to drive from San Fernando to Port of Spain, and by Guayma, you always have to come on the road with a single lane. So for years and years you're growing up, and everything is a highway, but when you reach Guayma, you just get in one lane and you take the traffic before and after. You know what they have done? Promising to do hydraulic study, they chop out the piece of the highway between Debe to Mondesiri. So everybody will have a highway with a missing part. It will be left for our government under the member for Siparia to put in the missing part. And that is a project that should have finished already. Madam Speaker, where are the new capital investment? Where are the new projects? For 4 years we heard of sandals, but we never got sandals, we never got slipper, we never got shoes, we never got nothing from this government. Dragon deal, they were neither a best sapat. Madam Speaker, the Dragon deal, they were in a conga line in Venezuela with Maduro in a conga line, whining their way and celebrating. They want a plane coming, they chartered a CAL flight and imbibing, celebrating Dragon Field. Where it gone? Madam Speaker, but today I heard a very disturbing statement from the Minister of Finance, and I want to get to that quickly. You see, Madam Speaker, what they have been doing is just borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. They borrow. Madam Speaker, they intend to borrow more, and I want to hook this on to that point the Minister made by giving the Tobago House of Assembly now the authority to borrow $300 million. And the capital projects, Madam Speaker, whether it is buying aeroplane, buying boat, buying bus, they are borrowing money to do it. In 2009, I want to remind this population, they took a loan for the Rapid Rail project. It was $500 million in 2009. Madam Speaker, a few days ago, Trinidad and Tobago paid back $500 million of taxpayers' money for a study on the Rapid Rail. History is repeating itself. As they leave office, they are going to chalk up debts for an incoming government to pay. Madam Speaker, when we left office, Madam Speaker, the outstanding debt was $84 billion. By February this year, so let us say 2018, by the end of 2018, they have the debt, national debt, at $95 billion. Huh? They have the debt at $95 billion, and they will chalk up a debt again for the 12 aircrafts, for the 6 vessels. And Madam Speaker, today, and I want to make this point in the context of the minister announcing, beating his chest, we are so happy, things are looking good. And of course, he's an awesome minister, the magician. So they say FCB making money, Republic making money, all the banks making money. But the banks must make money. What Amin Roti Shop in Marabella making? Anybody know? If Amin Roti Shop would know the good news from you, they might change the menu. But the Marabella is a ghost town. Point Up here roundabout is a ghost town. San Fernando have nothing. They have no traffic in Marabella no more. Petrotrin gone. Madam Speaker, Rio Claro, Faizabad, their traffic plan was to send everybody home. Point 14. Madam Speaker, but there was a bank that the minister didn't tell us about. And I want to put on record that good news, because the minister failed to tell us the good news from another bank. You see, Madam Speaker, some time ago, I asked a question in this parliament about a bank. It was on the 17th of the 12th, 2018, a few days before Christmas. And I asked whether NCB Global Finance Limited was doing a loan to Udicott. And Madam Speaker, and this is good news from another bank, so I'm adding to the minister's presentation. I'm not taking away. Madam Speaker, this bank, Madam Speaker, gave a loan to Udicott for $180 million. Fascinating, Madam Speaker, when I asked the Prime Minister whether he was aware that relatives of a government minister were involved in that bank. He said, I don't know who sleep with who. I'm quoting from Hansard. As to who sleep with who and who is cousin of who, I don't know anything about that. That's stumping, I think, from them. Madam Speaker, when I raised this issue, I knew what I was doing then. $180 million from NCB Global Finance to UDICOT. Madam Speaker, I then filed a question for written answer. And Madam Speaker, 72 hours ago, we got the answer. I asked whether this bank, because I'm concerned with Republic, FCB, the ministers, in fact, the minister could announce this with fanfare too. He chose not to, that's why I'm doing it. Madam Speaker, when I asked the business of NCB, Global Finance in Trinidad and Tobago, across the board, we got an answer. NCB Global Finance, which is a relatively new kid on the block in financial circles. It might be a young kid on the block too, I am told. So this young kid on the block, Madam Speaker, got into business with the government prior to 2015. And the last member, you know, he left the chamber. I wish he would be here to hear this, Madam Speaker. Hear about the young kid on the block. Home Mortgage Bank, would you believe Home Mortgage Bank was selected to sell? Home Mortgage Bank had shares in JMMB, and they selected Global Finance to do a transaction involving $46.9 million. Home Mortgage Bank. Why would the Home Mortgage Bank select another mortgage bank, a competitor, to enter into a deal involving shares in a Jamaican-based company? And NCB Global Finance is a foreign mortgage bank. It is foreign. Registered here in Trinidad and Tobago, but it's a foreign-owned bank. And Home Mortgage Bank gives a deal to their competitor. When you go on National Flour Mills, hear this one. A revised Treasury strategy for working capital. National Flour Mills, Madam Speaker, approved, their board approved in July 2016 with Global Finance, a loan of 10 million United States dollars, 70 million more or less. This loan was due to challenges being faced by National Flour Mills in obtaining US dollars. So National Flour Mills did not go to FCB, Republic Bank, and some merchant bank to get 10 million US dollars. They went to Global Finance. They're doing well. Madam Speaker, the other matter here is that they then made an investment with Global Finance. So here what they do. They take $75 million in one hand, they give Global Finance say, thank you very much, we're giving you back 10 million US. And business going down the road. 3 to 7% fees going down the road. And they talk about probity. They talk about probity, Madam Speaker. An unknown player prior to 2012 or thereabout, there was no such thing as Global Finance. Madam Speaker, they did business with National Flour Mills. Who is the chairman of National Flour Mills? Anybody know? Yes. The chairman of National Flour Mills has a business interest, a directorship or some position with JMMB. And JMMB has a relationship with Global Finance. And the chairman is there approving this. Madam Speaker, and participating, himself giving to himself. Madam Speaker, this is a very serious matter that requires investigation in business that would involve, Madam Speaker, about 70 million United States dollars, 7749, almost $500 million from NFM to Global Finance. Madam Speaker, let me continue. National Insurance Board, here this one. Who's the chairman of National Insurance Board? Anybody know? Guess. On December 8, 2016, National Insurance Board invested $35 million in a private company called Guardian Holdings Limited. You took taxpayers' money, 35. This is the Calder Heart UDICOT story all over again. You take $35 million of taxpayers' money, NIB, and so we invested in Global. But here what? We invested in Guardian Holdings. Guardian Holdings, huh? Remember this recent story between Mr. Lockjack, Mr. Leachin, and so on. So NIB takes $35 million to put an investment fixed rate loan in Guardian Holdings. And here who doing the deal? Here who is the lender and arranger? But that sounds like pan. But the lender and arranger is Global Finance Limited. National Insurance Board. Madam Speaker, $35 million involved in that transaction. Trinidad Nitrogen Company Limited, the minister likes to talk about the energy sector. And I don't know why, but we may come to it now. I don't know. Trinidad Nitrogen Company Limited, for the period September 2015 to present. Look where? September 2015. Tringen had forex transactions with NCB Global Finance, Madam Speaker. In this period, Tringen had transactions for forex with several banks, including the Global Finance. And they chose to add NCB Global Finance to its portfolio, Madam Speaker, as a licensed merchant bank. So Global Finance come in the scene, going on to the panel, they go on to the panel of all these state enterprise and reaping the rewards. 2015, Madam Speaker, $3.2 million in US. 2016, $4.5 million US in business. 2017, $4.7 million. And when we add this up, we get 7, 11, 13 million United States dollars is? 91 million. Thank you, Karenese. 91 million Trinidad and Tobago dollars from Trinidad Nitrogen Company alone. So it is a favor. What are they doing, Madam Speaker, to get this good news from the banking sector? But it is the banks with their profits, super high profits, that are benefiting from this government. It is not the people, it is not the workers. Madam Speaker, it is not the single parents. And today the minister comes 4 years later to beat his chest. We give out 1,000 food cards. Yeah.
50,000 people.
Yeah, we give out 1,000 food cards. Well, happy for you. Madam Speaker, Trinidad and Tobago Tourism Business Development Company, Madam Speaker, NCB Global Finance has been added to their company as an approved financial institution under the Government Loan Guarantee Program to provide loans to hotels under 50 rooms. So hotels now, wherever you are, hotels, with rooms under 50 rooms, hotel, tourism-related business, NCB Global Finance Limited will provide the funding and the government-to-government program as a guarantee. Madam Speaker, and of course the UDICOT issue. Madam Speaker, I want to remind this country that this deal with UDICOT for $180 million was signed off on the 15th of November 2018. The UDICOT changed hands from one ministry to the next on the 14th of November 2018. From the Ministry of Housing, where it was for 8 years, to the Office of the Prime Minister on November 15, 2017. By December, they announced that they fired the CEO. The CEO was fired. So within the same day you take control of UDICOT, they sign off on a $180 million loan with NCB Global Finance. Madam Speaker, today we call for a full investigation into the operations of NCB Global Finance across the state sector. And Madam Speaker, this is made worse when, Madam Speaker, when we reflect, which is a fact, I am reading from published documents, we have the annual reports, when we reflect that at November 2014, Madam Speaker, the CEO of this company is indeed the brother of a government minister in this country. And it's not Angus beef we're talking about, Madam Speaker. The CEO is indeed the brother of a government minister that has come into this. They talk about assassinating character, but there's a fact, Madam Speaker, that they have been involved with a global finance, giving more than $500 million to a company. Madam Speaker, let me put it to you let me put it to you quickly. A company unknown by 2015. Madam Speaker, do you know, Madam Speaker, from the accounts we have, this foreign company entered the TNT financial landscape, and in a short time, their asset base moved from $115 million in 2015 to a whopping $350 million by 2017. Madam Speaker, a 200% jump. Customer deposit moved from $83 million in 2015, Madam Speaker. Hear this one. Port of Spain North, hear this one. Customer deposit moved from $83 million in 2015 to $268 million by 2017. 223% increase. But you know, when this was happening, their annual report showed that there was no significant capital injection into the company. So the company had the same capital injection every year, $82 million more or less, Madam Speaker, but skyrocketing business, revenue increase, customer base increase, asset increase. And you know, this is what I think to use their term, I think we should raise a red flag. Well, many red flags. So if you thought Novo Technology, we didn't hear about Novo Technology today, that is also national security. Novo Technologies Limited had something to answer. Yeah. Global Finance has to answer. Madam Speaker, they have to answer.
Member for Puchis. Honourable members, it's now 4:30. It's time for the suspension. We shall resume at 5 p.m.